Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope all of you can hear me. Just a quick confirmation of that before I start the proceeding for the day two. Okay, thank you very much. If you can all hear me, that's wonderful. And you can see my screen sharing in front of you, right? You can see the PowerPoint presentation in front of your screen. Okay, that's great. Okay, so let's start the day two. Uh, I am Kashif Kamran, and I welcome you all to the Advanced Audit and Assurance Practice to Pass March 2021 webinar being organized by ACCA Pakistan. And today we are having the day two of the webinar. I hope you had a productive learning from the day one yesterday, and the day two will be as excited as the day one was. And you will be learning lots of things from the day two of this webinar. Let's look at the agenda of the day two so that you exactly know what we will be doing in the next 3 hours of this webinar today. Now, in terms of the agenda of the webinar for day two, what we are focusing on, let's have a quick look at that. The agenda for day two today, which is from 8:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time, we will be focusing on ethical, professional, and quality control issues, which is a very important topic. And I believe if you are preparing yourself well for the March 2021 exams, you all know this is a very important syllabus area. Not just an important syllabus area. If you look at the past paper, this is a syllabus area which is regularly examined almost in every single exam sitting, either for less marks or for more marks. So this is a syllabus area which you cannot leave unattended. I have covered this area almost in every of my previous webinar, but I still want to do this because this is such an important area and I cannot ignore this when you're preparing yourself for the March 2021 exams, right? I hope all of you can hear me before I start on with the day two proceedings. And I'll be asking this again and again in the first 15 minutes just to ensure that all of you are through with my voice. If anyone is facing any difficulty with voice, you need to reconnect and come back into the webinar because majority of the students are absolutely clear with the voice. That's good. Okay, and can you see the screen sharing in front of you? Can you see the agenda screen in front of you where the agenda is on? Okay, that's great. Okay, so with all that confirmation and all the confirmation on the technical aspects that you can hear me and you can see my screen, that's wonderfully good because that will really help me to start a smooth session, right? Okay, that's great. Okay, now let's start with the proceeding for day two. We have a very important agenda and we need to work on this very important agenda today, which is ethical, professional, and quality control issues. Now, that's the day two in front of your screen, and that's a very important day. Now, over the next 3 hours, you will understand the examiner expectations about ethical, professional, and quality control methods. So let's see what we have in store for the day two. Now, my previous webinars, which I will recommend all of you to watch, I am recommending 3 webinars for you to watch. One is September 19, one is June 19, and one is March 19. These are 3 fabulous webinars, which will really help you understand the rigor you need for ethical, professional, and quality control issues. So please ensure that you watch these 3 webinars so that you are effectively clear on the subject matter which we are starting today. Okay, now the agenda for the day two, a very important agenda. We have 2 articles in store, just like we had a couple of articles yesterday, which I recommended you. I was very strong on reinforcement of the articles yesterday. That was a very strong message given to all of you yesterday that you have to make a habit of reading the articles. 2 articles today, and I will be showing these articles to you during the course of my webinar. One is an exam technique article part 1, and the other is the quality control, a perpetual current issue. So these are 2 articles which will help you prepare for this subject matter. Then examiner expectations, which are very important. Over the next 3 hours, I will be telling you about the examiner do's and don'ts, which are really important if you want to take a score of 50 and surpass 50. The two questions I have chosen for today is the two recent questions, one from the March 2020 paper, the question number 3B, and the other question I have chosen today is the September-December 2020 question, question number 2A. So I've chosen the two most recent questions on the subject matter, ethical, professional, and quality control issue, which will give you a real good insight. I'll be doing halfway through these questions in my live session, and I'll expect you complete the remaining half yourself on the learning you got from the session today. So I'll start with March 2020 paper, I'll do it with you, and I'll stop somewhere, and I'll say, okay, continue the rest yourself as your assignment. Then I'll do the September-December 20 paper halfway through, I'll stop because I believe I must have shown you the guidance to do the remaining question, and you continue with the remaining question yourself. I hope you're clear on that, right? So your home assignments will be to complete the questions discussed in the class today or the webinar today, and then you need to watch the previous webinars. Is everyone clear and comfortable with the agenda for day 2? Can you respond to that so we can proceed further and start on with the day 2? Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for confirming that. Okay, now moving towards the start of the day 2, I need to take on my Word file as I was using yesterday. And again, I will be sharing this Word file with all of you at the end of the day on the students WhatsApp group. Now, the day 2, the agenda, ethical, professional, and quality control issues. Now, just keep your focus very strong. Now, when we are starting with the day 2 today, with the agenda being ethical, professional, and quality control issues, just like yesterday, my first concern is that how would you ensure that you excel in this area? How to excel? I think this was the same question I put yesterday, even when we started with the day 1, and this is exactly the same question I'm putting today: how to excel in this area? What's the technique? Now, it is more and less the same technique I developed yesterday. That the first thing you need to do is that you need to build upon your concepts, build concepts on the subject matter. Now, how would you go about building concepts on ethical, professional, and quality control issues? Is the examiner supporting you in this area with the articles, or you need to go back to the books? Now, when you look at the ethical, professional, and quality control issues, you can build your concepts by reading the examiner articles. I have already recommended the two articles, which is the exam technique article part 1 on ethics, and I've already recommended another article, quality control, a perpetual current issue. So the examiner articles will help you building the concepts around the subject matter, particularly ethics and particularly the quality control issue. So examiner articles, yes, the two articles which I recommended at the start of my day 2 today will be helpful. But when we look at ethics, ethics is an area where you should know the rules very well. You should know the code of conduct very well. And I prefer that the student read the book, only the chapter, right? Read the chapter from either the BPP book or the Kaplan book, whichever you follow. Read the chapter from either the BPP and Kaplan book on ethics, because you should be very strong knowing the rules, the code of conduct. You should be very strong on knowing the safeguards for a listed company and for a non-listed company. So I recommend that for ethics, you have to read the chapter from the book. So I hope you got that with clarity, right? So I normally don't recommend book readings, right? But ethics is an area where I do recommend book readings because you need to know the rules of self-interest, self-review, familiarity, advocacy, what is allowed and what is not allowed, what are safeguards. So that will really be helpful if you read the chapter from the BPP and Kaplan book. But along with that, you need to read the two examiner articles. So that is the approach which will help you to build up the concepts. I hope you're all clear on that. Now, once you have built up your concepts, what will you do next? Now, once you have your concepts on ethical issues, professional issues, and quality control issues, Your step number 2 will be practice, obviously, as we had it in the class yesterday. Practice. Practice of the recent papers. And I think the 6 recent papers, which I even recommended you yesterday, the recent papers starting from the September 18 exams up to the December 20 exams, the 6 recent papers, I even recommended that on the day one. If you do these 6 recent paper, they would be more than sufficient for you to be good on the application of ethical, professional, and quality control issues. So after you build up your concepts, you need to do the practice, right? Now, once you've done the practice, again, something which I was guiding you yesterday is to do the self appraisal of your answer, self appraisal of your answer, which was very, very important. I hope you got that yesterday. Self appraisal of your answer, which was very, very important, right? So, when you're doing the self appraisal of your answer, I hope you got the technique from the day one yesterday. The self appraisal of your answer is that you need to check your answer. Check your answer. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it good or is it bad? How would you do that? I guided you that in the day one yesterday, right? The same technique. Now, when you need to check your answer, you will first reconcile the points in your answer with the points given in the examiner marking scheme, right? Is that clear? We had the same point yesterday. So you reconcile the points in your answer with the points given in the examiner marking scheme. So it is the points versus points. So even if 50% of the points or 50 to 60% of the points written by you reconcile with the points written by the examiner, that's wonderfully good. So you will be happy that most of my points reconciled with the examiner. Now, there might be something you wrote as a point which the examiner didn't wrote in the marking scheme. I hope you got that from the session yesterday, that the examiner was saying that I will give you a credit for something you wrote, which I didn't wrote as an examiner, provided you justify it. Are you clear on that, everyone? I hope you attended the day one yesterday, and the examiner was very clear saying, I'll give you credit for something you write, but the examiner didn't wrote, provided you justify that. So you reconcile the points. You're not reading the answer, right? I stopped you from reading the answers yesterday, right? Because a lot of time the student gets into a habit of idealizing the examiner answer. A lot of time the student takes the examiner answer as a benchmark of success, which is not the case. Your points should reconcile with examiner points. The way of explaining a point is different. So you might have a different way of explaining a point, but your point should be valid. The last thing, after you reconcile the points, read the examiner report. Read the examiner report of the same paper you are attempting. Suppose you're attempting the September 18 paper, so you will read the examiner report of the September 18 paper. So read the examiner report to identify the criticism of the examiner and to ensure that that criticism is not in your answer, to identify the criticism and to check to check that you have not your answer, sorry, that your answer does not have the criticism of the examiner. If it has, you will have a learning. So when you do the self-appraisal, when you reconcile your points with the examiner points, and when you identify the criticism of the examiner and you find the same criticism in your answer, it will be a shock for you. But you are not sitting in the exam hall. And what if you read the criticism of the examiner and you find none in your answer? You're a wonderful student. But do you believe that the self-appraisal will help you with learning? The self-appraisal will help you with the learning of your weaknesses. And this self-appraisal will help you to improve on the day of exam, everyone. Did we had the same phenomena yesterday on the day one? Are you all liking this phenomenon of self-appraisal? Are you will you apply this concept of self-appraisal over the next few weeks before exam paper? It will really improve the quality of your answer. It will really improve the quality of your answer. So please ensure that you make a habit of self-appraisal, right? And again, I'm reinforcing, don't compare your answer with examiner answer. Compare your points. Compare your points. So a lot of time the student goes into the answer straight away and they start reading the answer and their stress level starts to go up, right? And the stress level starts to go up. You can read the examiner answer just to learn something. Just to if you don't know something and you want to learn something, read the examiner answer. But you should not learn from the examiner answer the length of the answer. I think 90% of the student just read the examiner answer to see how much to write. That is wrong. That is wrong. I hope you agree with me. So is the length of the examiner answer the right benchmark to pass the paper? True or false? Is the length of the examiner answer the right benchmark to pass the paper? Is that true? Is that false? It's false. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So what can you learn from the examiner answer? Can you learn some jargons from the examiner answer? Can you learn some knowledge from the examiner answer? If you don't know an accounting treatment, can you learn the accounting treatment from an examiner answer? If you don't know a safeguard, can you learn a safeguard from the examiner answer? So examiner answers are good. You can learn things from the examiner answer, but don't just get distracted from the length of the examiner answer, right? So just the final thing. When you look at the examiner answers, let's do that very carefully today. When you look at the examiner answers, don't idealize the length. Don't idealize the length as a benchmark of success, as a benchmark of success. Do you agree with my first statement? Don't idealize the length as a benchmark of success when you're looking at the examiner answer. What can you do from examiner answer, right? You can just read them for identifying knowledge. So can they help you with knowledge? When you read the examiner answer, can they help you with knowledge on safeguards? Can they tell you the safeguards? Can they tell you accounting treatments? If you don't know an accounting treatment, can you learn the accounting treatment from an examiner answer? Yes, you can. So read them for identifying knowledge and also read them for building jargons, for building language of the auditor. A lot of time, the students attempting the AAA paper don't have the language of an auditor. You should know the jargons of the auditor, right? A lot of time I've seen student answers, you are a manager in the AAA paper and you don't use the jargons. So should you know the jargons of the audit? Should you know the terminologies of audit? So can you build upon those terminologies by reading the examiner answer? Will that really help you from the examiner answer? So is examiner answers a good source of learning? Yes. But don't idealize the length. That's something bad. That's something dangerous. That's something dangerous. Let's put that in red. Don't idealize the length. So is examiner answer a good source? Yes. But something bad is the length which student runs after. Is that clear to everyone? Right? So this is how to excel, right? Now let's come to the agenda. The agenda is ethical, professional, and quality control issues, which I need to focus on today, and I need to guide you how would you go about things. Now, there are three things to be discussed today, right? The agenda is ethical issues, the agenda is professional issues, and the agenda is the quality control issues. Now, there are three things, right, to be discussed today. Let's put them in center. Let's start the discussion. Now, when you look at the ethical, professional, and quality control issue as a subject matter in AAA paper, you need to realize that there are three things. A lot of time when you look at the first issue, which is basically the ethical issues, I believe students are good into ethical issues, but there is something strange with students not being good on ethical issues. When you look at ethical issues, even though this knowledge comes from the AA paper, even though this knowledge comes from the F8 paper, and technically you should be strong in this, all of you know self-review, self-interest, familiarity, advocacy, intimidation, all of you know conflict of interest, all of you know confidentiality. You are very familiar with the code of conduct, because this is not the first time you are going with the code of conduct in the ACCA qualification. So technically, I believe, I hope I am true in that, that ethical issues is not a nightmare for students, right? Am I right? Is that true? Are you all capable of identifying the ethical issues from a case study? I think the nightmare is the professional issues and the quality control issues. The ethical issues is not the nightmare, but there is something wrong with ethical issues. There is something of an issue with an ethical issues. Let's find out what is that. If I show you the examiner report of a question which I will be doing today, which is the examiner report of the March 2020 paper, and I'll be doing the March 2020 exam paper with you today. I hope on a screen you can see the examiner report in front of you, question number 3, examiner report, because I'll be doing the March 2020 examiner, sorry, I'll be doing the March 2020 question number 3 today. Can all of you see the examiner report in front of your screen? Can you just confirm that? Okay, that's great. Now, if I just show you the criticism of ethical issues, I'll be doing this 10 marks question with you, which I have highlighted in green, and I want to read this green paragraph with all of you. It says, requirement B for 10 marks, which I will be doing shortly with you on ethical issues, required candidates to comment on ethical and professional issues arising from a planned listing of an existing client and the services which has been requested by the auditor. Overall, candidates had a reasonable attempt at the ethical issues arising. See, candidates had a reasonable attempt at the ethical issues arising. However, it is extremely disappointing to see incorrect rules stated for partner rotation and fee level relating to a listed entity. It is important for a candidate to ensure they have sufficient knowledge of the ethical guidelines and can apply them to a question. So is the examiner disappointed with your knowledge of the ethical rules? Even though ethics is a is a easy area, but is the examiner disappointed? And is that the reason I recommended you to read the chapter from the book on ethics? Because you need to know the rules very well. You need to know the rules of at after how much time the partner should be rotated, what is the rules on the fee levels, which services are allowed for a listed companies and which services are disallowed for a listed company. So is the examiner showing a disappointment that you don't know the rules very well? So is that the first concern in ethics? So even though you're good on ethics, but there is a concerning element with ethics that a lot of time you know the incorrect rules. So this is a disappointing area. And because it's a disappointing area, that is the reason I recommend it to all of you to to read the chapter from book. So will all of you be doing that to ensure that you don't put an incorrect rule in exam paper? Right? So you're good on ethics, but the bad thing with ethics, which might not be with 100% students, which might be with like 50% students, that you put incorrect rules. So if you have never read a chapter on ethics from the book, you still have 3 weeks or more than 3 weeks before exams. You can still read a chapter. I don't think one chapter will take a lot of time. So will all of you be reading the chapter on ethics from the book? Will you do that promise to me, commitment with me? Will all of you do that? Okay, that's great. So the examiner is a bit concerned about student not knowing the right rules. So that is the only problem with ethical issues. Now, how you write an ethical issue, how you explain an ethical issue, I'll be coming to that shortly. Now, the second part is professional issues. Now, the professional issues is probably a problematic area with students. I hope you agree with me. This is a problematic area. And another problematic area is a quality control issues. This is another problematic area. So I try to spend more time on professional issues and quality control issues in the webinar today. I'll not be spending a lot of time on ethical issues today because probably that's an easy area. The only thing where you need to be good on is rules. And you should ensure that you read a chapter for that. Yes, I'll be showing you the way to answer a question on ethics, how to write a paragraph on it. But I'll be spending time on the corrections of the professional issue and on the corrections of the quality control issues because I believe that is a problematic area. So do you believe professional issues and quality control issues is a problematic area? Do you agree with me? Do you believe this is a true statement I'm putting to all of you? Okay, fine. And can you hear me, all of you? And can you see the screen in front of you where I'm typing? Okay, that's great. Wonderful. Okay, so let's start the journey. Now, when I look at the questions which I need to do with you today, right? I have two questions today. One is the question 3B from the from the March 20 exams. And I'll be giving you the knowledge alongside the questions. Don't worry about it, right? And the second question I need to do is the question number 2A, and that's from the recent exam, September, December 2020. So these are the two questions, right? I'll be looking at these two questions, exploring the criticism of the examiner, guiding you on how to write a good answer, how to write a quality control answer, how to write a professional answer, how to write an ethical answer, and I'll be giving you a lots and lots of knowledge. So over the next 2.5 hours, you will you will have an amazing session. So let's start the journey. Now, when I look at the question number 3B, let me show you that, right? The question number 3B of the March 2020 exam paper. Okay, can you all see the question number 3 in front of you from the March 2020 exam paper? Just please do confirm me when you start to see it in front of your screen. Okay, that's great. So you can see the question number 3 right in front of your screen from the March 2020 exam. So we are looking at 3B, right, not 3A. So we go down and we look at the 3B. Now, can all of you see the 3B? Okay, that's great. So 3B, let's see what is the requirement. Look at the requirement of the question number 3B. The requirement, 10 marks. Comment on the ethical and professional issues arising as a result of the B4 company planned listing and the services which it has requested from Moritz and Company. So Moritz and Company is the audit firm, B4 is the client. You need to comment on the ethical and professional issues arising as a result of the planned listing of the company and the services it has requested to you to perform, and you have 10 marks. A straightforward question, right? Is that question visible to all of you? Can you see the green highlighted question in front of your screen, everyone? Okay, that's great. Okay, now let's see what this question is asking. If I just take this question in front of your screen for a proper analysis, right here. Now look at the question which came in March 2020. It is asking you, comment on the ethical, one, and comment on the professional, two, issues. This is a very important word, issues, arising as a result of a B4 company planned listing and the services which it has requested from Moritz. So as simple as that, you need to identify the issues. I just be quick in responding to my questions. What is the examiner asking? The examiner is asking you to comment, right? And comment on what? Comment on the issues, irrespective whether that is an ethical issue or irrespective whether that is a professional issue, right? You just need to comment on an issue. And when you are commenting on an issue, every comment on an issue will give you 1 mark per issue. And when you're commenting on an issue, you have to not just comment on an issue, you also have to comment on the action you will take to resolve the issue or the safeguard. That is an ethical issue, you need to take a safeguard. So you need to comment on the action and the safeguard, which will also give you 1 mark per action. So whenever the question asks you comment on the ethical and professional issues, by default, you should write actions because the word comment is very important here, comment. So when you're commenting on an issue, simultaneously, you will also comment on the safeguard or the comment on the action you will take to resolve the issue. So 1 mark for the issue, 1 mark for the action. Is that marking scheme clear to all of you? So in an ethical, professional, and quality control question, the marking scheme is 1 mark. Whether you get a question on ethical issues, you get a question on professional issues, you get a question on quality control issue, for every issue, 1 mark, and for every action, 1 mark. Is that simple looking marking scheme? No complexity in the marking scheme as we had complexity in the audit risk marking scheme or as we had complexity in a risk of material misstatement marking scheme. It's a pretty simple marking scheme, right? Okay, now good, now understand. Now, a lot of time, the problem number one with the student is you are a manager, right? You are a manager. attempting the question. You need to comment on the issue and you need to suggest an action or a safeguard through which you will overcome an issue. Now, you're not doing an F8 paper. You are not a junior, right? If a junior is attempting a paper, he will attempt the paper this way, just like the F8 paper. He will make two columns. In one column, he will write ethical issues. In the other column, he will write professional issues. Do we do the AAA paper this way? Do we make a table in the AAA paper? Never. You used to make a table in the AA paper, right? You are a junior, you are a senior in the AA paper. In a AAA paper, you are a manager. The manager focuses on the issue, right? The manager doesn't focus on the class of the issue. Are you getting my point? So are we telling examiner the class of the issue, the category of the issue, or are we telling examiner what is an issue and why it is an issue? Is that clear to everyone? So when you comment on the issue, what is your focal point? Why it is an issue? Why it is an issue? Is that correct? Or should your focus be on the category of the issue? Is it an ethical issue or is it a professional issue? What is right? Why it is an issue or the category of issue? What is right when you're commenting on the issue as a manager? I'm waiting for your answers. Okay, you believe category of an issue is important, or you believe why it is an issue is important? As a manager, will you tell your partner, this is an ethical issue, or will you tell partner why it is an issue? You believe your partner has less knowledge than you? You believe the partner doesn't know this is an ethical issue and a professional issue? Are you communicating to a junior or are you communicating to a manager? Are you communicating to a junior or are you communicating to a partner? So will you tell partner this is an ethical issue, this is a professional issue as if he doesn't know it? So will you keep your focus on why it is an issue, or will you keep your focus on categorizing the issue to get marks? Will the examiner give you marks for categorizing the issue? Is it a objective test question? Will the examiner ask you self-review threat? Is it an ethical issue, true or false? Is that the way? Not at all. So please ensure that being a manager, your focal point is on the issue and your focal point is why it is an issue. Is everyone clear with that? Not to get confused with the category of issue. So will do we attempt questions in AAA with a table? No, we never make tables, right? We never categorize issues. So just let's remove this table from here. This is useless for a AAA paper because we are a manager. We don't make tables as a manager, right? Just let's put off this table. Right? So we don't need it. So we have to comment on the issue and why it is an issue to get marks. We're not categorizing the issues, and we need to write an action. We need to write a safeguard to get another one mark. Now, what are safeguards? What are actions? As we start discussing the March 2020 paper, I'll be guiding you on a way of writing, and I'll be guiding you on the literal meaning of the word action and safeguard. I hope you're clear with the understanding of the March 2020 paper, right? So why it is an issue is the focal point, right? No, you are not allowed to make tables, right, in the AAA paper, right? So you cannot do anything. Even if you like tables, you cannot put them in the AAA paper because examiner don't like tables. You are a manager, you need to do answer in headings and paragraphs, right? Is that clear to everyone? Okay, so comment on the ethical issues and professional issues arising as a result of the planned listing and the services which the company has requested from Moritz and Company. So every issue is 1 mark, every action is 1 mark. Now, how would you go about explaining the issue and commenting on the action? Just wait for 5 minutes. Now you come to the second question, which is the question number 2A of the September-December 20 exams, right? Let's see what was the question in the most recent paper. Now, if I take you to the September-December 20 exam question, okay, can all of you see the September-December 20 exam question in front of your screen, the question number 2? The question number 2 A from the September-December 20 exams. Can you all see that? Okay, that's great. Thank you for confirming that. Okay, just one student is confirming that. Can all of you see this question in front of your screen? Okay, that's great. September, December 20, right? And you move down. Look at the requirement of this question. Can you see the requirement for 15 marks here, which I highlighted in green? The question says comment on the quality of planning and performance of the audit. How was the audit planned? How was the audit performed? Comment on the quality of the planning. Comment on the quality of the performance of the audit of the reverse company, comma, discussing the quality control, comma, ethical and other professional issues raised, and this time the examiner made it more specific, recommending appropriate actions to be taken, marks of 15. So this time the question is on a quality control issue alongside ethical and professional issues. Now this is the question which most of the time the students fails to understand. You might understand a question, comment on the ethical and professional issues, the one we were discussing before, but this type of a question, the students fails to understand what exactly is to be done. So do you find the March 2020 question more straightforward? Comment on the ethical and professional issues, full stop. And do you find this question a bit complex when the examiner says comment on the quality, comma, discussing the quality control, ethical and professional issues and recommend appropriate action? So let's exactly see what is to be done in this question before we start the journey attempting each one of them. Okay, if I just take the question on my screen. Okay, now you can see this question in front of your screen, right? Everyone on the Word file. Now be very specific. How would I go about it? I'm just taking it on a fresh page so we can start the analysis. Question number 2 from the September-December 20 exams. Comment on the quality. Now, when the examiner is saying that you need to comment on the quality, that is very important. Is that a requirement? Is that something the examiner wants you to do? Comment on the quality? Comment on the quality of how the audit was planned and how the audit was performed, and then you look at the word comma. So comma is breaking. And then you have to discuss the issues raised, whatever the issues are, right? Not the class of the issue, issues raised. And you need to recommend actions. So how many things is the examiner asking in this question? 3 things. Number 1, the first thing the examiner is asking us to is to comment on the quality. That's one thing extra, which was not in the preceding question. This was not in the March 2020 question. Agree, disagree? This was not in the March 2020 question, right? This is something extra we have in the September-December 20 exams. Comment on the quality. Then next, discuss the issues. Was that the case with the March 20 paper? Discuss the issues. Again, why it is an issue, why it is an issue, not the class of issue, not the class of issue. So your focal point has to be on the issue, why, not the class. So discuss the issues, whatever the issue is, whether it is ethical, whether it is professional, whether it is quality control, whatever. The focal point is issues. And the last thing the examiner is asking you, actions. Obviously, actions were part of the last question as well, though it was not explicitly asked for, but over here the examiner is explicitly asking for. So we have 1 mark, right? For commenting on the quality, we have 1 mark for discussing the issues, we have 1 mark for action. So whatever you do again in this question, you have 1 mark each. Is that clear to all of you? Right, so you have 1 mark for commenting on the quality, you have 1 mark for discussing the issue, you have 1 mark for writing in the action, right? So try to understand how would you proceed from this point onwards. Now, I technically believe ethical issues is one area where you are strong. You just need to revise your rules. Professional issues, I'll be discussing with you over the course of the webinar today, and quality control issues. Now, tell me realistically, to comment on the quality, should you know what is quality control? Should you exactly know what is quality control? Should you know the ISA 220? Should you know the ISQC 1? Should you know the chapter from the book on quality control? Because if the examiner is saying comment on the quality, how would you comment on the quality if you don't have the knowledge? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me? So to comment on the quality, should you know what is quality control? Should you know what exactly quality means? If you don't know what quality means, will you be able to comment on the quality? So should you know what is the quality control? Should you have knowledge about quality? Should you have knowledge about quality? Should you have knowledge about the standards, the ISA 220? I hope you know the ISA 220, which is the quality control for the audit. Quality control for the audit. You should have knowledge, right? Then only you can apply this to comment on the quality. So to comment, you should know the knowledge. And that means either you read the examiner article, quality control, a perpetual current issue, or you read the chapter from the book on quality control, whatever you want to do. If you are doing AAA for the first time, then better to read the chapter from the book. If you're repeating the AAA paper, better to read the examiner article, quality control, a perpetual current issue, so that you get knowledge about what is quality control, so that you can comment on the quality. Is that clear to everyone? So a lot of time the student struggles to comment on the quality because they don't know what quality is. Or a lot of time the student exactly doesn't know what is the literal meaning of the word comment on the quality, and they ignore this in the exam paper. They don't write any comment on the quality and they come out of the exam hall very happy. So I need to focus on what exactly comment on the quality means and how you go about it once I start drilling the September-December 20 paper. But is everyone understanding the marking scheme for both the papers, March 20 and December 20? Can you confirm me that, please? Okay. And are you understanding the breakdown of the question? Did you understand the breakdown of the March 20 paper? And did you understand the breakdown of the December 20 paper? So is reading the requirement important? Is the way of reading the requirement important? A lot of time you don't know how to read a requirement. A lot of time you overlook certain things in the requirement. You don't know how many things are there in the requirement. So have you found the way of reading requirements? And have you found the focal point why it is an issue rather than a class of an issue? How many times you focus on class of the issue? How many times you're confused in reading a case study? Is it an ethical issue? No. Is it a professional issue? No. Is it a professional issue? No. Is it an ethical issue? How many times you're confused in bifurcating issues? Rather than you should just spend a time on why it is an issue. If you have found an issue, just explain why. Right? So I hope you're technically clear between the reading of the requirements and the marking scheme. Now we are moving one step closer to the start of the practice. Now, you know the approach, you know the articles to read, you know the question requirements, you know the marking schemes. Now it's a high time we start with the application, because application will bring us one step closer to criticism. And if you believe you are wonderfully prepared, you are not. Because the moment I start writing the answer, I'll show you the criticism of the examiner, and that will be an eye opener for all of you to learn something very productive from the session today. So let's start the journey. Just give me 1 minute, right? I just want to set my word file for the start of the past paper practice. The two questions, the question number 3B and the question number 2A. So these are the two questions we are to discuss today. Okay, let me take the question number 3 on the fresh page, and we start with a proper drilling prior to the break on the question number 3B, and after the break we'll spend more time on the question number 2, because quality control is a much more important area. I'll be spending very less time on ethical and professional issues because that's a comparatively easy area, and I'll spend a bit more time on the next one, right? Okay, let's start with the question number, let's start with the question number 3B of the March 20 exams, right? Let's start with it. Okay, let's come back to the case. Question number 3B and 10 marks. Okay, I'll be doing a certain part of it and you do the rest yourself, right? I just want to give you a track. Okay, let's start with the first paragraph. Okay, I'm reading. I'll stop and we find a problem. Keep your focus strong. You have also been asked, you are a manager, right? You have also been asked to provide an accountant report for an audit client, B4, which intends to list on the stock market in September 2025. So this company is about to list on a stock market. So when the company is in the process of listing, we assume the company to be a listed company from the view of the code of conduct. So when a company is in the process of listing, that means currently it's a non-listed company, right? And it is in the process of listing. We assume this company to be a listed company from the application of the code of conduct. So which safeguards will you apply here? You will apply the safeguards of a listed company here, right? So which intends to get listed on the stock market during the year. So we'll assume this company to be a listed company. Is that point clear to everyone? So when the company is in the conversion of a listed company, you start to assume it is a listed company, and you start to apply the code of conducts not of a non-listed company. You start to apply the code of conduct of a listed company. You know the difference between a listed company and a non-listed company, because there are lots of services which are allowed for a non-listed company, and there are lots of services which are prohibited for a listed company. Do you have this mindset, everyone? So is the first point clear to all of you? So when the company is in the process of becoming listed, will we assume it as a listed company or a non-listed company? We'll assume it listed, as a listed company, right? That's great. Okay, move further. Beaufort Company has been an audit client of Moritz for the last 8 years. Okay, that's fine. You can have an audit client for last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. That's wonderfully fine. This has been an audit client of your firm for the last 8 years. So for last 8 years, you're doing audit of this company, preparing financial statements to the 31st of March each year. So the client is preparing the financial statements to the 31st of March. Don't get confused that the auditor is preparing it. The examiner is saying that this is the client for the last 8 years, which is preparing the financials for the year end of 31st of March, right? You're not preparing it. Throughout this period, the managing partner at your firm, Francis, has taken personal responsibility for the audit, and it has increased the fees income from the client to a level where it represents 16.2% of the Moritz company total income. And in the last year, it was 15.4%. So do you believe this is the first problem, that the managing partner, Francis, has taken the personal responsibility of the audit throughout the 8 year period? Throughout the 8 year period. So is the partner serving for a very long time? Has the partner changed after 7 years? Has the partner rotated after 7 years? Or is the partner continuing for the last 8 years? Is that a problem? Is that a familiarity threat? Do you all know that the partner should be rotated after 7 years? The partner should change after 7 years? Is that a code of conduct? Right? But over here, the partner has continued for 8 years. So is that the first problem? See how you write it. You pick the first problem, you take it to the Word file, and you get the first problem. Uh, you put the heading Francis, and you put the heading long association. So at least the marker who's checking the paper knows what point you are writing. So you put Francis long association. So everyone who's reading the case know which point you are highlighting. Now you write under why it is an issue. Francis long association, why it is an issue. So the first line you write, Francis Francis 8 year tenure as an audit engagement partner creates a familiarity threat. Full stop. France's 8 year tenure as an audit engagement partner creates a familiarity threat. Now, examiner says you should not just categorize the threat, you should justify why it is a threat. So the very first thing you need to do when you're writing the answer is that you pick up the threat. If it is an ethical issue, right? If it is an ethical issue, you will say, okay, this is a familiarity threat. But then you have to justify after why to get your marks. So France's 8 year tenure as an audit engagement partner creates a familiarity threat. But why? Because the 8 year association he has with client will make him will make him too familiar, will make him too familiar to client, will make him too familiar with client, and he will lose his skeptical mindset, and he will lose his skeptical mindset and become too sympathetic, and will become too sympathetic. So do you believe this is the reason of justifying the familiarity threat? So because the 8 years association he has been with client will make him too familiar with the client, and he will lose his skeptical mindset, right? And he will become too sympathetic. Now, will you get your 1 mark? Have you justified why it is a familiarity threat? Why 8 years association as a partner creates a familiarity threat? So, have you just wrote a threat, or have you also justified why it is a threat? So, examiner says a threat and why, and you score your first 1 mark out of the 10. See, you need to write the threat if it is an ethical issue. So if you say threat, only threat will not give you any marks, right? Threat and justify why it is a threat is equal to 0.5 plus 0.5 is equal to 1 mark. Is that clear to all of you? Then you write an action. The engagement partner should rotate after maximum 7 years. However, in exceptional circumstances, the rotation can be extended by 1 year. The rotation can be extended by 1 year. Now, the code of conduct is very clear, right? The code of conduct says that the partner should rotate after 7 years max. However, in exceptional circumstances, the rotation can be extended by 1 year. Yes, you need to write the safeguards in every question, right? Comment on the ethical and professional issue. So when you're commenting on the issue, you need to write the safeguard, right? So the engagement partner should rotate after max 7 years. However, in exceptional circumstances, the rotation can be extended by 1 year. So even if the rotation is extended by 1 year, has Francis already served the maximum tenure of 7 plus 1 is equal to 8? Am I right? Right. So the engagement partner should rotate after 7 years. However, in exceptional circumstances, the rotation can be extended by 1 year, right? So even if the rotation is extended by 1 year, so the maximum time the Francis can be in office is how much? The maximum time the Francis can be in office is how much? 8. So has he fulfilled 8 years? Is that the maximum time? So what is the safeguard? The safeguard is not what you wrote. This is the rule. This is a rule you wrote. So the partner should rotate after 7 years. However, in exceptional circumstances, the partner rotation can be extended by 1 year. Thus, Francis has already Francis has already served maximum 8 years and should please read the textbook for what are exceptional circumstances, right? That is the reason I recommended you to read the chapter from the book to know what are exceptional circumstances. In exam, you just write this way. You're not quoting exceptional circumstances in exam, but on a safe side, you should know what are exceptional circumstances, right? In the tenure of the webinar, we don't have time to discuss everything. The focus of the webinar is practice. Thus, Francis has already served maximum 8 years and should immediately be changed. Is that correct? So the maximum is 7, but in exceptional circumstances, 1 year. So we assume that there was an exceptional circumstances. So the maximum Francis can serve Asad is 8, 7 plus 1. So even he has served 8. So do you believe he should be immediately changed? Thus, Francis has already served maximum 8 years and should changed immediately. So is that the safeguard you're writing? He should be changed immediately. Will that give me another 1 mark for the action? 1 mark per action. So how many marks am I getting from this paragraph I wrote for you? Francis long association. How many marks? 2. Right? So please read the textbook for a 7-year rule. Please read the textbook for an extra 1 year rule so that you're very clear. The type of questions all of you are asking means you've never read a chapter from the BPP and Kaplan book, right? And you've never heard about 7+1. Please, are you, the focal point is to draft an answer. Are you finding the drafting of the answer, how to go about drafting the answer, familiarity thread, and then justifying why it is a familiarity thread? Are you all picking that? And do you find how I wrote an action? So in one paragraph for issue, one paragraph for action. Did I give a heading of action? Did I separately give a heading of action? No. I just changed the paragraph. I just changed the paragraph, right? Okay, let's find the second issue. The second issue we found from the case study was what? I think was the fees, right? Okay, the second issue we found in the case was that this has increased the total fees from the client to a level where it represented 16.2% of the Moritz company revenue for the current year, and last year it was 15.4%. So has the fee income from Beaufort company is in excess of 15% for 2 consecutive years? Is that the code of conduct? That your fee income from a particular client should not exceed 15% of the total income of the firm for 2 consecutive years? So for 2 consecutive years, has it exceeded 15%? Last year it was 15.4%. This year it's 16.2%. So has it exceeded the level of 15% in 2 consecutive years? So is that a self-interest threat? Is that a self-interest threat that the fees income has increased beyond the ideal limits? So should we write this as an issue next for taking a marks? So let's see how you write the next issue. The next issue, fee income. Uh, the fee income as the next heading. And under the fee income, see how you write the point. Under the fee income, you write a point. Uh, the over dependence, give me 1 minute. The over dependence on audit client, the overdependence on audit client in terms of fee income give rise to self-interest threat, full stop. Then you say why. Overdependence on audit client in terms of a fee income give rise to a self-interest threat because the audit firm will have a significant financial interest in the audit client which will distract the audit firm in carrying out work diligently. Will this distract you from carrying out the work diligently, because you don't want to lose your important client? You don't want to lose your important client because the audit firm will have a significant financial interest in the audit client, which will distract the audit firm in carrying out task diligently, or in carrying out audit diligently. Is that true? Will you be focused on money? Will you be focused on not losing the client? So is the financial interest influencing you here? And is that influence compromising your objectivity as an auditor? I'm waiting for your answers. Are you agreeing with my point, with my justification, everyone? Okay, so overdependence on an audit client in terms of a fee income gives rise to a self-interest threat. So I found the threat, but I need to justify to get marks. So I wrote because the audit firm will have a significant financial interest in the audit client, which will distract the audit firm in carrying out the audit diligently. So that is the reason it will give rise to a self-review threat. Now I come to the action. The action is the income from a client should not exceed 15% of the total income of the audit firm for 2 consecutive years, which is already exceeded in case of Moritz, in case of Beaufort company. right? So the income from a client should not exceed 15% of the total income of the audit firm for 2 consecutive years, which has already exceeded in the case of the Beaufort company. Is that right? Have you exceeded last year and this year? So what's the safeguard? This is the rule. This is the rule. What should be done? The income has already exceeded for 2 consecutive years. What should be done here? Now, what should be done here is that you should ensure, because it has already exceeded in the case of the Beaufort company, the audit engagement, the audit engagement should be subject to a independent partner review, independent partner review. So when you sign the report, prior to the signing of the report, you should either have a second partner review or an independent partner review. The audit engagement should be subject to an independent partner review prior to signing report, or the fee levels should be discussed with the audit firm ethics partner to find solutions. So you should have a discussion with your firm ethics partner to find solutions. What should we do? What should we do in future to reduce our dependency on Beaufort company? How can we reduce our dependency on Beaufort company? Sit down with your ethics partner, or you can discuss with those charged with governance. That is also a very good safeguard. So in my first point, I found a threat followed by a reason, and this gives me 0.5 plus 0.5 is equal to 1 mark. And then in the second paragraph, I wrote the rule, and the rule followed by the action, because writing the rule was important, and I get 1 mark for action. So again, I am taking, no, you cannot reduce the fees. You need to find a course of action how to reduce the fees, right? Who will tell you the course of action to reduce the fees? There is no course of action written in the code of conduct, right? The code of conduct doesn't tell you the course of action to reduce the fees. Who will tell you? The ethics partner. So you have to consult with the ethics partner, right? Consultation with the audit committee, or consultation with those charged with governance, or consultation with the ethics partner is the recommendable safeguard if your fee income has exceeded. Is that clear to all of you? Okay, that's great. So are you finding the way I'm writing the answer? Are you finding my paragraphs, how I'm framing my paragraph? In one paragraph, I have the issue. In the second paragraph, I have the action, right? So 1 mark for an issue and 1 mark for an action. Now, if you see my issue is just like one sentence. And if you look at my action is somewhere one sentence or somewhere two sentences. So that's not a lot of writing, right? That's a very less writing. Just in one sentence, I'm telling you the issue, and just in 1 to 2 sentences, I'm telling you the action, right? So this much you have to write in the AAA paper, right? You cannot write less than this in a AAA paper, because your answer will become ambiguous if you write less than this. So to make your answer clear and to make your answer unambiguous, this is how much you need to write. So did I exaggerated something? Did I drag something? Did I unnecessarily put something down here? So did I categorize the issues? Did I tell examiner Francis Long Association is an ethical issue, or did I tell examiner fee income is an ethical issue, or was I focusing on the issue and why it is an issue? Right? So you need to understand it's not lines Muzammil, it's sentence. A sentence is a full stop. So if you look at my first action is just my first action is just one sentence. I just have one sentence in my first action. So Muzammil, you people run after examiner answers. Go and see the examiner answer for how much examiner wrote for long association, Francis. And you will say, oh, the sir wrote a wonderful answer. Go and see how the examiner wrote the fee income. And you will say, oh, sir wrote a wonderful answer. If you believe this is too much, then ideally you need to see the examiner answer, which you love to see, which you love to follow, everyone. So, and honestly, if you write, you will write more than me. So you need to write sufficient, right? You need to write sufficient, because if you write less than this, your answer will become ambiguous. So will you write an ambiguous answer or will you write a sufficient answer? I'm waiting for your answers, everyone. Will you write an ambiguous answer or will you write a sufficient answer? So sufficient answer can be 1 to 2 sentences, right? Or at times 2 to 3 sentences. I even justified that yesterday. For 1 mark, ideally, a 2 to 3 sentences is good. So for 1 mark, 2 to 3 sentences are good. Sometimes 2 sentences makes you 1 mark, or sometimes the point is so important that you need to drag the point to 3 sentences to get you 1 mark. So there is no hard and fast limit of 1 mark. But normally, I think when you develop a point, the development of the point takes minimum 2 sentences. I hope you agree with me. Sentence means when you put a full stop, right? One sentence means the first full stop is 1 sentence. So when you develop your point, I think 1 point development takes like 2 sentences to develop minimum, and more than that in a certain circumstances. I hope you're all clear on this. The reason of drafting is to give you the way of drafting. I hope you found a way of drafting long association and fee income and how I went about it. Now, look at the criticism of the examiner before I exit from this situation. The criticism of the examiner is that you just identify threat, with no explanation why. So have we avoided this? Just identify the threat with no explanation why. Have I been focusing on because every time I wrote because? Because was that important? Justification of a threat. So just identify the threat, 0.5 marks with no explanation why. So if you do the explanation why, you get another half a mark. So avoid this criticism. A lot of time, the student just, when they're explaining the threat, they just tend to write definitions of threats, which they learn from the BPP book. You're not writing the definitions of threats. You are linking the justification in the context of case. So when I was explaining because, was I linking because to the context of the situation? So the because has to be in the context of the case. The because has to be in the context of the case study. You cannot just say, okay, I'll learn the definition of definitions from the book of a self-interest, self-review, familiarity, advocacy, intimidation, and I directly copy paste the definitions in my answer. A lot of times students do that, tend to write definitions of a threat. No, you need to explain the threat in the context of the case. Explain the threat in context of case study. That is very, very important. So please, in this order, will you go down reading the rest of the case? Will you explore the para next after this? Just to give you an idea, look at the next line. In addition to performing the annual audit, Moritz Company also provides accounting and bookkeeping services for Beaufort. Accounting and bookkeeping services. Do you believe this company is about to become a listed company? And when a company is about to become a listed company, we apply the same safeguards as if it is a listed company. So this company is about to become a listed company. So do you believe accounting and bookkeeping services are prohibited to a listed client? And is it a self-review threat? Is it a self-review threat? It is. Wonderful answer, Evelyn. This is a self-review threat. And do you believe that we cannot provide accounting and bookkeeping services to a listed company? So is the company in the process of becoming listed? So should we treat this company like a listed company? That is a very important rule, right? Are you all clear? Good. The accounting and bookkeeping services includes preparation of the monthly payroll. So what are you doing in the accounting and bookkeeping services? Preparation of the monthly payroll. Do you believe payroll is a material expense in the financial statements of any company? Do you believe payroll is a very important expense for any company? So preparation of a payroll. Do you believe preparation of a payroll is material? Normally. So anything which is material, if the company is listed or the company is becoming listing, if the company is listed or becoming listing, this is prohibited. Anything which is material service is prohibited. But look at the second service they're offering. They're also offering maintaining accounts, maintaining financial records of an immaterial division. Is the examiner writing purposely for you immaterial division, preparing financial records of an immaterial division? Now, because that's an immaterial division, the code of conduct says if you are preparing financial records of an immaterial division, even that's a listed company, immaterial division, this is allowed. This is allowed. So if you are preparing accounts of an immaterial division, even that is a listed company, that is allowed. But can you offer a payroll service to a listed company? No, because payroll generally is a very material expense. So are you finding two things in the last line? One is a payroll service and one is a financial record service to an immaterial division. Both of them will give rise to a self-review threat, but payroll services are not allowed. But financial records to an immaterial division. Did examiner deliberately wrote the word immaterial division? Is that something important? Is the examiner giving you a clue in the exam paper, immaterial division, for you to think in exam paper that immaterial means, okay, that's permissible. Material, prohibited. So are there many issues in one paragraph? The very first one, are there like three issues? Francis serving for 8 years, the total fee income, and then offering the accounting and bookkeeping services. So are there like three issues in the first paragraph followed by three actions can make up to 6 marks out of the 10? Right? So please ensure that you go in the order and you try to wrap up the March 2020 question number 3B. I hope you get sense of the marking scheme. I hope you get the sense of reading through it. And I hope you are in a better position to read the chapter from the book on ethics so that you know the rules of a listed company and of a non-listed company. You know the rules of a fee income. You know the rules of a partner rotation, because the examiner was very concerned that the student know the wrong rules. So will you be revising your rules in the next couple of days from now? And will you ensure that when you attempt a question on ethics, you know the right rules for a listed company and a non-listed company? Is that clear? And the last thing, please ensure there is an article here, which you can see right in front of your screen. Exam technique article. Exam technique article. This is a technique article, part 1, ethics. This is wonderful article which tells you how to write a good ethics answer. If you read this article, you will get to know how to formulate an answer. If you have never read this, read this, because this is such a wonderful article which tells you how to formulate a good answer, right? So please read that out. There is a way given in formulating the answer on page number 3. Can you see examiner telling you how to write an ethical answer on page number 3 right here? Just like we were looking at a 4-step model yesterday, how to write a ROM answer. Examiner has given you a 3-step model. Identify the threat first. We did identify the threat, everyone. Do you agree? We identified the threat, familiarity, self-interest. Then explain why it is a threat, how it arises, why a familiarity threat, how it arises. It arises because the partner was serving for long. And then in the third point, examiner is saying you need to give the safeguard or an action. So is the examiner telling you a 3-step model of how to explain a threat in exam paper? Just like the question yesterday on risk, examiner was giving us a 4-step model. So let's wrap up this question, take a break, and we'll resume back with September, December 20, quality control, because that is a question I want to spend time on. I want to spend 90 minutes of my remaining webinar on quality control, because I just want to give you insights of how you go about commenting on quality, because that's a better learning for all of you, and exactly what is a professional issue, what is the definition of a professional issue. So just one last thing before I give you a break. How to write a good answer on ethics. Is the examiner giving you the approach of writing a good ethics answer? So which page will you read? Page 3 of the exam technique article. So will you read the page 3 of the exam technique article, part 1, ethics? And will that page 3 give you a structured approach to writing an ethics answer? Structured approach to write an ethics answer. Did you found a structured approach to writing a risk answer yesterday from the exam technique article? And you're finding exactly that same way today? This is the structured approach, right? First, identify the threat, understand how it arises and the implication in the context. So we've identified the threat, familiarity. We then understand why the familiarity threat, because the partner was serving for 8 years and the partner will become too sympathetic. And then we apply the safeguard. But look at the point number 3, evaluate significance if possible. Can you look at the word if possible? Does that mean it is to be done every time? It is to be done every time? Waiting for your answers. If possible means, is it forcefully? Is it mandatory? Is it to be done every time? No. Now, in the case of Beaufort Company, was the company in the process of becoming listed? So if there is a familiarity threat the partner is serving for last 8 years, do you believe it is a significant threat because it relates with the partner and the partner is the one who signs the report? If a threat relates with the junior, is that more significant, or if a threat relates with the partner, that is more significant? Answers, everyone? Partner. Okay, if a threat relates with a listed company, is that more significant rather than a threat relating with a non-listed company, with a family business, with a small company? Do you believe the significance of the threat can vary from a junior to a partner? Junior versus partner? The junior is serving for last 8 years. Is that a significant problem versus partner is serving for last 8 years? Because the partner is the one who needs to sign the report. So who needs to be more independent, the junior or the partner? So listed company versus non-listed company, which is more significant in terms of an ethical dilemma? A family business, non-listed company, owner managed company. So at some point in time in exam, you are you need to justify the situation because of the person, like a partner. At times you need to justify a situation in the exam paper because it's a listed company. So have we given regard to a listed company when we were answering our actions and issues in the question? Did we wrote answers from the viewpoint that it was a listed company? So significance, right? And then apply safeguards. So 1 mark for the threat and 1 mark for the safeguard, right? So please follow the 4-step model where the step number 3 is where the step number 3 is if possible, right? It's not something forcefully, but it's if possible. Okay, I hope you had the productive first part of the webinar today. It's high time for a break now because we need to resume back with a very important last part of the day 2, where the focus has to be on quality control and professional issues. And I need to give you a very good definition of quality control and the application of that. And then I need to give you a very good definition of a professional issue. September, December 20, question number 2 will be the focal question for last 90 minutes. And we'll look at the September, December question number 2, from the viewpoint of learning, not just answering, but learning. What does comment on quality means? So will you all be there for the second part of the webinar in the next 12 minutes after the break? Right? So I hope you had a productive session, the first one. Did you learn something out in the first 90 minutes? Did it give you something of a mindset, something of a strategy, something where you can polish things up, something where you can excel on? Right? So I hope the first 90 minutes must have given you the strategy for the next 3 weeks of how you will go about attempting questions on ethics, reading the article, reading the chapter from the book, the marking scheme. I hope you all like that, and we'll be back with the second part of the webinar shortly. Right? So I'm just taking a break now. I hope you can see the break slide in front of you. And it is a break up to 10:05, right? 10:05. We have a break till 10:05. Please be back to the live session at 10:05. 10:05 p.m. break. I hope you all got that message in your chat box, right? So I'm muting myself, and I hope you had a good session today. And you will be watching my previous webinars as well on the same subject matter. I recommended you few of my previous webinars to be watched, which will really be helpful to you to understand more about ethical and professional issues, because every webinar is different from the previous one, and in every webinar you learn something new in terms of a past paper. So I hope you had a productive session. Off to a break, have a cup of tea, come back fresh, because you need to understand and you need to absorb quality control and professional issues. Right? I'm muting myself and I'll be waiting for your feedback in the chat box for the session today. Thank you. Okay, welcome back everyone. Just a confirmation, all of you can hear me, right? Is my voice getting through to all of you? Okay, and has the screen changed in front of you, right? The break screen has gone off and you can see a quality control screen in front of you. Okay, let's resume back with the remaining part of the session today, and let's focus on a question on quality control and exactly what does a comment on a quality means in a question on quality control, and exactly what are professional issues. We've already discussed about the way of ethical issues and examiner criticism around that. Let's resume with the last part of our discussion. Now, just prior to the break, I was discussing with you the type of the question which came in September, December 20 exams. Let me copy that down again. We had an analysis of that question, and I just want to drill this question now in the remaining part of the session today. So if I can just put that question again on the screen, the September, December question number 2A, we spend time on understanding the requirement, comment on the quality, discussing the quality control, ethical and professional issues, and recommending actions. So I did tell you the marking scheme. Now it's time to do the application of on a question on quality control. So now when a question comes on quality control, every time in the past paper, if you have seen the past paper questions, and every time a question comes on quality control, it starts with comment on the quality, comma, discussing the issues and recommending actions. Now, there might be many issues in the case, right, which compromise the quality. There might be many problems in the case which compromise the quality. Now, if you pick up a problem in a case which you believe compromise the quality, you have to comment on the quality. Now, which problems, which issues compromise the quality? Because when you are commenting on the quality, you should know the fundamentals of the ISA 220, because that's the only way you can comment on the quality. Otherwise than that, perhaps you will pick every problem in the case, and on every problem you will say thus the quality is compromised. No, that's not the way. So when the examiner says comment on the quality plus discuss issues in the case, whatever the issues are, right? Whether they are professional issues, they are quality control issues, they're ethical issues, whatever. Because I'm not interested in the class of an issue as a tutor. I'm only interested in justifying why it is an issue. So when the examiner says comment on the quality plus discuss the issues in the case plus actions, that's exactly what is the September December 20 question in shorter form. Let's explore that now. Now, when the question says comment on the quality, a lot of time what the student do, they pick an issue from the case, whatever the issue is, and they comment they comment on the issue by simply saying open inverted commas, thus the quality is compromised, close inverted commas, end. This is a very common statement of students. Thus, the quality is compromised, and they will write it 10 times. They will write it 15 times in the answer. Thus, the quality is compromised without even telling examiner why. Because they have learned this statement. They believe, okay, if I write this statement, thus the quality is compromised, I have done the comment on the quality. No, you need to justify why the quality is compromised, because you need to understand not every issue will compromise the quality. Only those issues will compromise the quality which are mentioned in the ISA 220. So when you pick an issue from the case and you just explain why it is an issue, okay, that's fine. You explain why it is an issue, that's good. But then you come to a comment on the issue by simply saying thus the quality is compromised, because you believe every issue compromise quality. Is that right? That the student believe every issue will compromise the quality. How many of you have this perspective in the live webinar today? Student believe every issue will compromise quality, because there is a connection between an issue and a quality. There is a connection between an issue and a quality. If any one of you taking the live webinar today believes what I'm writing in the bullet number 4 and you agree with me, student believe every issue will compromise the quality, you are a weak student. You don't know either. You don't know the ISA 220. So do any one of you agree with me? One of the student has agreed. Student believe every issue will compromise quality. How many of you believe this? If you believe this, you need a correction in the next 3 weeks. So the student believe that whenever there is a problem, the problem compromises the quality. And they say, thus the quality is compromised. And they're so happy writing this statement so many times in the answer. How many times you write this statement in your answer, thus the quality is compromised, without even justifying it, without even writing, without even uh, explaining it? I hope some of the bullets relates to you. I hope you can do your self-appraisal, right? I hope some of the bullets relates to all of you taking the live webinar today. So students believe every issue will compromise quality. No, the right thing is ACCA 220 contains a list of issues which will compromise quality if present in the case study. Compromise quality if present in the case study. So you should be good on the ACCA 220, right? You should be good on the ACCA 220 because ACCA 220 contains the list of the issues, contains the list of the problems which if present in the case study will compromise the quality. So should you know the ACCA 220? Should you read ACCA 220? Should you read the chapter? Should you read the chapter on quality control in the book? Quality control in the textbook? If you're weak, if you're not, then fine. And should you read the examiner article on quality control? Examiner article on quality control, which is quality control of perpetual current issue, which has been shared with you. Quality control a perpetual current issue. So is there a way out over the next 24 hours that you read the chapter on quality control or you read the examiner article on quality control and you exactly know within the next 24 hours what are the issues which compromise the quality? Not every issue in the case study will compromise the quality, and not for every issue you need to comment on the quality. So for every issue you will comment on the quality? For every issue will you compromise, will you comment on the quality? Everyone? No. For some of the issues will you comment? For some of the issues will you comment? So if there are like 10 issues in the case, might be out of the 10 issues, 4 of them are quality control issues. And on the 4 of the issues you comment on the quality, and on the remaining 6 you don't. So should you be good on ACCA 220? Should you be good on the examiner article? So let's first spend quick 5 minutes on ACCA 220. Then I need to spend majority of my time on the paper. So let's show you the list from the examiner article first. Now, when you look at the examiner article on quality control, because I cannot show you the book in the session. So, right, 1 mark, right? Thus, I've explained the marking scheme in my first part. 1 mark for the comment on quality, 1 mark for explaining the issue, 1 mark for writing the action, right? I've already given the marking scheme, right, in the first part of the session today. Okay, examiner article on quality control. If I can put that in front of your screen just to emphasize. Now, this is a wonderful article of examiner, which you can see right in front of your screen. Audit quality, a perpetual current issue. It will hardly take 2 hours max if you have a very good reading of this article. Otherwise, it's going to be finished in like 60 minutes and done with the article. But this article is a wonderful resource to make your mindset on quality control as a topic in the AAA paper. Right? So if you go down page number 1, ignore, come to page number 2. Can you see on the page number 2, the examiner is highlighting the ACCA 220. Can you see this? ACCA 220, and the examiner is giving you some bullets from the ACCA 220, which are particular issues which compromise the quality. Can you look at those bullets, the 6 bullets? These are important. You should know them, not just rote learning them, but you know the application of them. So how many problems, how many issues in a case study can compromise the quality? The 6 of them given in ACCA 220. So if you find any 6 of them, you will relate them with quality control. But I just need to give you a quick explanation of that. This is not a class. This is a webinar which is focused on practice. So don't expect I'll give you theoretical discussions in my webinar. This is a free of cost webinar. This is an opportunity for you. This is a benefit for you, which is just to give you the right track. Uh, Taking classes, reading books, doing self-study is your approach, right? The webinar is just a guidance. So can you look at the 6 factors, which is important under ISA 220, quality control for an audit of financial statement, right? Just let me copy them from this to my Word file. Okay, these are the 6 factors, right? Which is given in the examiner article. So I take them to my Word file, and these are 6 elements of quality given in ISA 220. And I copy the list down. 6 elements, right? You learn them. No benefit of learning them till the time you don't know the application. You learn them. Leadership, ethics, acceptance, assignment, because you are so good in learning, every one of you, but you're so bad in it, the application. So what is the first element of quality? Leadership. Simple. What is the second element of quality? Ethics. What is the third element of quality? Acceptance of a client. What is the fourth element of quality? Engagement team. What is the fifth element of quality? Engagement performance. And what is the last element of quality? Monitoring. Have, have I circled the 6 keywords? So what are elements of quality? What are elements of quality? The elements of quality is equal to L, the leadership, plus ethics, the E, the engagement team, E, again, the engagement performance, E, sorry, acceptance we missed out, ethical, then we have the acceptance, A, then we have engagement teams, engagement performance, and then we have monitoring. So this is it. You try to make a mnemonic out of it, but mnemonic will not help you in exam paper, right? It's the application. So will everyone recall with me quickly? L is the leadership, right? E is the ethics, A is the acceptance, uh, E is the engagement team, E is the engagement performance, and M is the monitoring. How many E's are there? 3 E's. 3 E's, not economy, efficiency, and effectiveness, but the 3 E's means ethical, 3E means engagement teams, and the 3E means the engagement performance. Will you remember these 3 E's, everyone? Right? Okay, good. Now, how to go about it? Now, I just ask you some simple questions in the next 3 minutes because I need to start the paper. The simple questions I will be asking you: do you believe, uh, number one, leadership? Leadership is equal to the role of the partner. And if you believe in a case study, the partner role is wrong. If you're reading a case, right, and in a case you believe partner role is wrong, will you criticize the partner role if it is wrong? And will you connect it with a comment on the quality? Because you believe the role of the partner is a factor of quality. So, do you believe leadership connects with quality? A good leadership means a good quality. A bad leadership means a bad quality. So, if something is wrong in relation to a partner, will you connect that with the leadership responsibilities in the case of the question? And will you criticize it? Next, ethical. Ethical issues. Do you believe ethical issues compromise the quality? Because ethical issues will uh, bring your objectivity into doubt, and any ethical issue will compromise quality. Is that a more clear connection? Will compromise quality, any ethical issue? Because any ethical issue will impair objectivity. Agree or disagree? So if there is an ethical issue like a familiarity threat, just like the previous question, so if you believe the partner is serving for last 8 years, will he become less skeptical? And will that compromise the quality because he will become less skeptical? Do you believe an ethical requirement or an ethical issue compromise the quality? Is there a connection? Is there a correlation between ethics and quality? So leadership can boost quality and leadership can compromise quality. Ethics can boost quality, ethics can compromise quality. Are you finding the connection, everyone? Good. Acceptance. Leave acceptance, because acceptance comes as a standalone question in AAA. Standalone question. You must have seen a lot of questions on practice management in the past paper. I've covered the practice management in my December 2020 webinar if you want to watch that. But I hope you must have seen the papers, the past paper, where you get a question on matters to consider when invited by a new client or matters to consider when accepting a new audit client. So acceptance comes as a standalone question. So we're not worried about acceptance in a quality control question. So acceptance, ignore it. No connection of acceptance in a quality control question. Acceptance comes as a separate question. Look at the next one. The next one is engagement team. Now, do you believe engagement team plays a very crucial part in the quality? For example, the size of the team. The size of the team is wrong. You have two less people in the team performing the audit of a large company. Two less people in team performing audit of a large client. Will that compromise the quality? Two less people in the team performing audit of a large client, or incompetent incompetent team member incompetent team member, or a partially qualified team member. You must have seen these words in the past paper. Partially qualified team member is assigned to an important area, is assigned to a risky area, assigned to a risky area. Will that compromise the quality as well, that the person assigned is not good uh, to a risky area? Will that compromise the quality? So do you believe the team size is important and the team competence is important, right? So the size of the team and the competence of the team. Will you remember the two factors, the size of the team and the competence of the team? If they are absent, it will compromise the quality. Then next, the most important from an examination perspective, I always recommend, this is the most important, engagement performance. How you perform audit, which is known as the field work. How you do the field work of the audit. Now, when you're performing the engagement, this is the most important task, right? Now, see what the examiner is telling us in the engagement performance. Examiner is telling us in the engagement performance: direction, supervision, review of the audit, including consultation. There are four parameters of engagement performance, and most of the time, as a tutor, when I see the past papers, I believe 95% or more than 95% of the time, the case study on a quality control is made around engagement performance. There is some problems with direction, there is some problems with supervision, there are some problems with review, no consultations. I've never seen consultations. But engagement performance, when you're performing an engagement, you need a direction. I hope you agree. Direction is very important. Direction means planning an audit. Can you start an audit without planning? Can if you're reading a case and in a case it is written that the audit start without planning, will you criticize it? Will you believe if audit start without planning it will compromise the quality? So direction means planning. After direction is what? Supervision. Supervision is an ongoing monitoring, is an ongoing monitoring. Supervision is an ongoing monitoring. Suppose you're reading a question and it's written the manager was absent throughout the audit. If the manager is absent throughout the audit, will that compromise the supervision, ongoing monitoring? Do you believe supervision of the team is important? The supervision of the team is important. So if the manager is absent, will the absent manager compromise the supervision of the engagement? Right? Is my voice clear to all of you? Are you getting my voice clear through? Okay, that's great. Next, direction. Sorry, next, review. Review is very important. What is review and what is supervision? Supervision is ongoing, right? Review is the review of the working paper. Review of the working papers. Do you believe review of the working paper is very important at the end of the task? At the end of task, when you complete the task, the working paper should be reviewed for identifying any problems and mistakes. So do you believe review, if review is not performed of the working paper, or if the review is performed but in a very bad manner, will that compromise the quality? So supervision is ongoing during the task. When you're performing the task, you need supervision. But at the end of the task, your working papers are reviewed. So is everyone clear between the difference between a supervision and a review? So supervision is during, review is at the end. So most of the time, the case study in the AAA is made on engagement performance. So I need to highlight this as the most important element of the AAA paper. So I just want to put that in blue. This is the most important. And lastly is monitoring. Monitoring, again, has no relevance to the case study because paragraph of a quality control question, when you start to read it, it will be written that you are a manager responsible for the engagement quality control review. That means you are doing monitoring. So monitoring is always given in the case study in a very positive manner. So you need not to be worried about it. Monitoring is always given in positive manner in the case study. So you should not be worried about it. So I think the only things you should be worried about when you're reading a case on quality control, if I cut short the story within the limitation of the webinar, because again, this is not a class. So as a student, what you should know, you should know leadership, number one, to survive. You should know role, leadership role. You should know ethical issues. You should know the engagement team. You should know the engagement performance. And that is it. That is it for your paper. Leadership role is equal to partner. Ethical issues, you know what they are. No need to put anything out against it. Engagement teams means the size plus the competence. So if anything relates with size and competence of the team, will you be able to criticize it? And will you link that with quality control? Engagement performance is equal to direction plus supervision plus review. So if you remember this, will you survive commenting on the quality in the exam paper, everyone? So will this summary help you, all of you? Waiting for your answers. Will this summary help you of the issues which can compromise the quality in exam paper? Issues which compromise the quality. Issues which compromise quality. And will these issues help you? So how many issues you should have on your fingertips when you look at the past papers? Either the partner role is missing, or the partner is doing something wrong, or there is an ethical dilemma, or the size of the team is wrong, or the competence of the team is wrong, or the direction is wrong, the supervision is wrong, the review is wrong, and you find a point and you say, oh, this is the factor which compromise the quality. Now, you know the factors which compromise the quality, right? Tell me some quick answers now. And we're starting the case study. We have very less time remaining. Okay, now, do you know the factors which compromise quality? True or yes or no? Do you know the factors which compromise quality? Yes. But the next thing is how to apply them, and how to comment on them in exam paper, right? Let's start the exercise. Let's start the paper. September, December 20, question number 2A. Is everyone ready for this question to be started? Okay, let's start this question. Okay, I'll do 50% of the question in my live class, and the remaining 50% you will do back at home, so you exactly know how to comment on the quality. But I hope the summary I tried giving to you within the limitation of the time, and ensuring this is not a class, this is a webinar. Um, I believe I've done justice to that. Okay, let's go down. Read the question. September, December 20, question paper. I need to show you the criticism as well, right? So be prepared for that. Okay, can you see the question number 2 in front of your screen now? The question number 2 of the September, December 20 exams. We need to comment on the quality, discussing the ethical, professional, and quality control issues. Let's start the journey. Keep your focus now on the screen, everyone. Okay, I'm reading the paragraph. It is the 1st of July. You are a manager in Wellford Company, a firm of chartered certified accountant. Your role includes the post-issuance audit quality review, and you have been asked to review the audit works performed on river companies. So you are a manager and you are responsible for a post-issuance audit quality review. So are you doing the monitoring part? So you are a manager responsible for monitoring because you're doing the engagement quality control review. So monitoring will always be given in the first paragraph, and the first paragraph will tell you that you are a manager responsible for monitoring. So you're not worried about monitoring as an issue. Is that clear to everyone? So you are a manager responsible for engagement quality control review, and you're looking at a client which is a river company. Let's see what quality control problems have you identified from river company. And not every problem will be quality control. Now, just one last thing, which I forgot. There are four factors which you got from the ISA 220, right? Leadership, ethical issues, engagement, team size and competence, and engagement performance. But there are also some factors which are given in the examiner article, which you should know, which are exam important and which compromise the quality, which are exam important and compromise quality. What are those factors? Number one, see the examiner article quickly. If you look at the examiner article, page number 2, page number 3, why audit quality is concerned. Examiner has written in the article that there are some particular issues which compromise quality, and that particular issues are given here. Number one issue, tight deadlines and restriction on fees. Examiner tells us that when there are tight deadlines, it will compromise the quality. Do you agree with it? That when the deadlines are tight, you will be in panic, you will be in rush, you will do things quickly, and that will compromise the quality? Okay. If 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 there is a restriction on fees, will that compromise the quality? If there is a restriction on fees, will that compromise the quality? Will you be able to do the best work when you are getting less income, when you're getting less fees, when you're getting less salary? Will you be able to do the best job? No, right? So examiner is also telling us some more issues, that tight deadlines and restriction on fees also compromise quality. You might get this in exam paper. I think already somewhere in 2014 or 15 papers, examiner has tested the tight deadlines and restriction on fees. So do you all believe if there is a restriction on fees, you're not paid for the job well, you're getting less salary for the job, will you do the best of your task? Imagine yourself, if you are paid less, will you do the best job? Or will you lack motivation? Will you lack the morale to do the best job? So will restriction on fees compromise the quality, everyone? Okay. Next, competence. Have you already covered competence as an issue in engagement team, that when there is a lack of competence, it compromises the quality? Okay. Have you already covered the ethical dilemmas? That ethical dilemmas also compromise the quality, right? Okay. uh, Extensive use of judgments. When a lot of judgments are used, it also compromises the quality. See, and if the judgments are wrong, a lot of time when you read the past paper, you will see that the manager has exercised a judgment in the case study, but that judgment was wrong. For example, if I quote a past paper, in a past paper, there was a question where the manager used a judgment that he told his junior not to use the firm policy on selecting a sample method. So was that the right judgment of the manager in context, that he told the junior not to use the firm policies on selecting a sample size? So was he telling the junior ignore the firm policies? Was that a right judgment? So at times, when you read the case on quality control, you will see that the manager is exercising a lot of wrong judgments. So do you believe a wrong judgment in the context of the case will also compromise the quality of the audit? Do you agree? So should you look at the judgments used in the case study very carefully? Not necessarily every judgment is right. So how many factors can we add? Judgment, ethics is already in my list, competence is already in my list. So we can add another one, tight deadlines and restriction on fees. So apart from this, you should know tight deadlines plus restriction on fees as other factors which compromise quality, restriction on fees, and extensive use of judgments. Extensive use of judgments. I'm not putting ethical dilemmas and competence because that's already in my list above, competence and ethical issues. So that is it, right? 4 factors from ISA 220 and 3 factors from the examiner article. That is the list you should know to connect with, comment on the quality. Is everyone clear now? Can we start reading the case back again, September, December 20 paper? Waiting for your answers. Is everyone clear and through? It seems you're lost somewhere, all of you. Are you all clear? Are you all sound? Are you getting the track, what we are discussing? Okay, that's great. I thought you've all went down to sleep. Okay, back to the question. Okay, so you are performing a quality control review of a client river company. Let's see what have been the issues you have identified. The first issue you identified is about audit team and fees. Audit team and fees. So is audit team part of the engagement team, and is engagement team part of a quality control factor? So examiner is giving a heading which is giving you a clue. Audit team, engagement team, fees. Let's see what's the problem with fees and audit team. Can they be connected with quality? River company is a listed company. Is that important? It's a listed company. Let's annotate that. The company complies with corporate governance. That's good, and has an audit committee. Wonderful. River company has been an audit client of Welford for 8 years, and Bob Newbold has been the audit engagement partner during this time. Is that the ethical issue, that Bob Newbold has been the partner for the last 8 years? Have you found identical issue in the March 20 paper and then in the December 20 paper? Just in like 6 months, examiner is using the same example. Did we got the same example? Over here, we have a client for 8 years, exactly 8 years in March 20. And Bob Newbold has been an audit engagement partner during this time. Is that an ethical issue? And will this ethical issue, the long association of partner, will compromise quality? Do you believe partner will be less skeptical and this will compromise the quality? See how I write the answer and connect with quality. Now the answer I wrote for Francis was just ethical issue. Now over here, I will write an ethical issue and then I will comment on the quality. See the difference of the answer, right? Comment on the quality. See, I'll exactly write the same answer, which I wrote for you in the last exercise. If I can just copy that answer, would save my lot of time. We had almost the same answer, Francis. So I just copy the Francis answer as if I'm writing the Bob answer. I'll just change the name of the partner here. So the first issue, which I put here, is what's the name of the partner? Can anyone recall the full name? Bob, long association. Let's put that way, as if I'm writing the answer for this. Instead of Francis, I say Bob. Bob, 8-year tenure as an audit engagement partner creates a familiarity thread because 8-year association he has with the client will make him too familiar, and he will lose his skeptical mindset and become too sympathetic. Have I commented on the ethical issue? Was the examiner says discuss the ethical issue? So is my paragraph number 1 valid for discussing the ethical issues, everyone? But do you believe the partner becoming too familiar with the client and he will lose his skeptical mindset? Will this compromise the quality? So should I comment on the quality as well now? Do you believe ethical dilemma with the partner is a quality control factor? Everyone. So should I change my answer now? After the full stop, I will comment on the quality. See how am I commenting on the quality? Let me use a red color. See how I comment on the quality. Full stop, too sympathetic. This will compromise the quality, as the partner will not be performing his task in a diligent the partner will not be performing his task in a diligent manner. This will compromise the quality, as the partner will not be performing his task in a diligent manner and will not be objective. Full stop. Have I justified why the quality will be compromised? Or did I wrote a journal statement, full stop, thus the quality is compromised? Will the examiner like that statement? Thus the quality is compromised? Or did I wrote this will compromise the quality as the partner? Did I justify why, as the partner will not be performing his task in a diligent manner and will not be objective because of the familiarity threat? So did I commented on the quality? An extra effort. Are you getting the perspective, everyone? So what is the difference between writing a Francis answer in March 20 paper and writing a Bob answer in December 20 paper? Have I wrote an extra sentence to justify comment on the quality, everyone? Right? So don't just write a journal statement, Elizabeth. Thus the quality is compromised. That's of no use till the time we justify why the quality will be compromised. It will be compromised because he's not objective. It will be compromised because he's not diligent. So is everyone clear with the line I wrote in red? Is that the comment on the quality, everyone? Okay, will I get an extra mark for this comment on the quality? Yes, I will. Comment on the quality. Was the examiner saying comment on the quality? Yes. So how many marks am I now getting for Bob paragraph? 2. But when I wrote Francis paragraph, how many marks did I get? 1. Because I didn't comment it on the quality because the question was not asking for it. So are you finding the difference between writing an answer on an ethical issue and writing an answer on comment on the quality? Everyone? And will the safeguard remains the same? Only I need to change the word Francis with Bob. So I changed the word Francis with Bob and my safeguard looks like 1 mark. So now I'm getting 3 marks on the paragraph of Bob out of my total 15 marks. Is that clear to everyone? Yes, that's perfectly sufficient, right? The much I wrote for you. The comment on the quality has to be brief, right? But the comment on the quality should not be like this way, that you wrote this paragraph like this, Control C, Control V, and a student is writing the answer, and he writes everything, and in the last line he says, full stop, thus the quality will be compromised. Not this much will make your examiner happy. Thus the quality will be compromised, full stop. Now look at this answer, thus the quality is compromised, and look at my answer above. Which statement is better? Which statement is better? The statement I wrote above or the statement down, which mostly students write? Right. Obviously, Sayyid Abrar, you will be changing the partner in the next year, right? Already the report is signed, so obviously we cannot change the partner now. So you will change Bob immediately the next year. The next year audit, you will change him immediately, right? So that's the perspective. Is that clear with you, Sayyid Abrar? Because the report is signed, we cannot change the partner. But should we change the partner or should we continue with Bob even in the ninth year? Should we change Bob for the next year or should we continue with Bob for the ninth year? We should not, right? We should change Bob when? The next year, because the report has been signed. So are you clear with comment on the quality? Let's look at the next situation. Go back. No, Manur, you are writing the action for a ethical issue, right? Bob Long Association is an ethical issue, not a quality control issue, but the ethical issue has a connection with quality control. And if there is an ethical issue, it will compromise the quality. So you commented on the quality. But the safeguard you are writing is for an ethical issue. What is the issue, Manur? The issue is a familiarity threat. So you're writing an action for a familiarity threat. Why are you commenting on the quality? Because a long association will also compromise the quality because the partner will not be diligent. Right, exactly, Asad. Your answer will remain the same except for the comment on the quality, right? That's how I'm saving the time. I just copy paste the Francis situation. I converted the Francis situation to a Bob situation as if you're writing the ethical answer. But after the ethical answer, what extra you are doing? The extra you are doing is the comment on the quality. So is everyone finding the extra? Is everyone clear with the extra I wrote in the answer? Rest of the answer will remain the same, right? The only extra thing you need to do is comment on the quality. Will the issue remain the same, everyone? With the way you explain the issue will remain the same, everyone? Are you finding the track? Are you finding the clue? Are you finding the way out, everyone? No, you don't need to write a separate paragraph for a quality control issue. I'm writing the answer, Mahnur, for you, and then still you're asking a question. Am I not showing you the way of writing the answer? Is that the way you need to write answer? So when I'm telling you the way to write an answer, then why are you still raising a question that do we need to write quality control issue as a separate paragraph? No, exactly the same way I wrote it. In one paragraph, you tell the issue and you comment on the quality. Is that clear with everyone? So is everyone clear with the way of writing? In one paragraph, the issue with comment on the quality followed by an action. Okay, let's look at the second one. We just wasted too much time on Bob, even though we've done Bob in the same situation in Francis. I thought it will take less time, but for some reason, even though we have discussed Francis, you took equally long time on Bob, being the same situation. That's amazing, right? Okay, the next one. Okay, so Bob Newbold has been an audit partner during this time. River Company's audit report was signed by Bob and was issued last week. So if we want to replace Bob, we can only replace Bob in the next year when he comes for the audit. So next year, Bob should not be the engagement partner. We should have a new partner for the next year. The report contained an unmodified opinion. It also questions, right? What if, because he was less skeptical, so he must have ignored issues which caused an unmodified opinion? There might be something he overlooked because he was working for 8 years, right? So it also brings into question mark the unmodified opinion as well. It might be because he was less skeptical, and that was the reason he issued an unmodified opinion. But leaving aside that next paragraph, Welford Company, the audit firm, require its staff to record each hour they spend working on the client, which is good, in the time management system. Wonderful. From the review, the time record relating to the audit of River Company, you are aware that Bob and the other team members record the following amount of time. How much time has Bob given to the engagement in the whole audit? Just 2 hours. Do you believe partner has given sufficient time to the client? Just 2 hours to the audit of Rivers Company, a listed company? Do you believe this is an ignorance of the leadership responsibility? Do you believe in 2 hours what must have Bob done? In 2 hours, what must he have done in 2 hours? Nothing, nothing. That's a very good answer, Evelyn. So, do you believe 2 hours is a very less time which Bob has spent on the engagement? It does that connect with the leadership responsibility? Is the quality compromising in terms of the leadership responsibility that Bob is portraying in the audit? So will we question Bob's leadership responsibility? Okay, let's get to the next point. Okay, Bob Newbold spent 2 hours, right? Next point. Bob spent just 2 hours heading, and we write under the heading. Now see, issue. This is not an ethical issue, right? Is it an ethical issue? Bob spent just 2 hours, or is it is an issue? It is an issue, or it is an ethical issue? Do all of you understand Bob spent 2 hours is an issue, or are we confused with the class of the issue? Do we need to explain examiner why it is an issue? Or do we need to explain examiner, oh no, it's an ethical issue? No, it's an issue. So Bob spent just 2 hours. Let's explain that. Uh, 2 hours, 2 hours spent by Bob is too less, considering it's a listed company. It's a listed company, full stop. So 2 hours spent by Bob is too less considering it's a listed company. And in 2 hours, humanly, in 2 hours, logically, nothing is possible. Nothing is possible. 2 hours? 2 hours just fly. So 2 hours spent by Bob is too less considering it's a listed company. And in 2 hours, logically, nothing is possible. This means Bob has not fulfilled Bob has not fulfilled his leadership responsibilities in an effective manner. Am I right? Is leadership part of ISA 220? So I'm saying this means that Bob has not fulfilled his leadership responsibilities in an effective manner. Full stop. In an effective manner, and must have impaired the audit opinion issued by the must have impaired the audit opinion issued by him. Does it brings into account the quality of the audit opinion he raised, the unmodified opinion, because he just spent 2 hours? So this means Bob has not fulfilled his responsibilities as a leader in an effective manner. and must have impaired the audit opinion issued by him. Follow stop. The quality of this must had compromised the quality of the this must have compromised the quality of the audit opinion, as it seems that partner carried out his task in the partner carried out his task in too much rush. Just 2 hours. Just 2 hours. So, do you believe this compromised the quality of the audit opinion, as it seems that the partner carried out his task in too rush, or does the quality this this must had compromised the quality of the leadership role or the leadership responsibility, as it seems the partner has carried out his task in too much rush? This must have compromised the quality of the leadership needed for river company, as it seems the partner carried out his task in too much rush. So did I connected uh, the 2 hours with the Bob has not fulfilled the leadership responsibility in an effective manner? So first I find the issue, Arun. First I found the issue. This means Bob has not fulfilled his leadership responsibility in an effective manner. This is an issue. But then I connected the issue with a comment on the quality, that this must have compromised the quality because he was in too much rush. He was in too much rush. So I found an issue, but that issue relates with leadership, and leadership is an area of ISA 220. So I connected leadership with with a comment on the quality. So are you finding how ISA 220 will help you in the answer? If you know the fundamentals of ISA 220, if you know that Bob is spending 2 hours within the ISA 220 is a leadership responsibility, and if leadership responsibility is compromised, will that eventually compromise the quality of the engagement? Everyone, are you finding the correlation between how you find an issue and connect that with quality? Everyone, are you finding it ease now? We still need to do another two more examples. So is everyone clear? Bob spent just 2 hours is too less. Okay, next issue. Okay, then the next issue, right? Uh, the next person, Pat. Pat is the senior manager. Okay, the senior manager has put 6 hours. That's next. Okay, Anissa is the audit manager, and she has put in like 35 hours. Okay, and then we have 6 audit assistants, like the juniors and the seniors, and they together have put 130 hours. How much time have we completed the audit? 173 hours. Do you believe the engagement performance has been done in 2 less hours? 173 hours. If you divide that by 24 hours a day, for example, we work 8 hours a day, right? Realistically. So if you just find a quick conclusion that suppose 173 hours and we are working in like 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. So that's like 21 days. We completed the audit of a listed company in 21 days. Normally, we take like a month to 2 months to complete the audit of a listed company realistically. Do you believe 3 weeks is a very less time to complete audit of a listed company? 173 hours? Are you finding that clear, everyone? So do you believe 173 hours is a too less time for a listed company, just like 21 days and we wrapped up the audit? Where 6 assistants spend most of the time. So you can also criticize on the total time spent of the audit if you want to. You put the next point and you say total time spent and you criticize the total time spent. The total time spent on engagement, considering it's a listed company which requires which is a listed company. Just 1 minute. The total time spent on the engagement, considering it's a listed company, is too less because an audit of a listed company. Manur, if they're doing audit for the last 8 years, they have knowledge of business, right? But 21 days is not a list. It's not a good time to wrap up the audit of a listed company. Every year, when you go to the audit of a listed company, the listed company needs to be taken seriously, right? In a listed company, you need to spend time looking at the laws and regulations, adherence to laws and regulations, the corporate governance requirements, the internal controls. You still need to do a lot of work. 8 years means you have good knowledge of business, right? So the total time spent on engagement, considering it's a listed company, is too less because an audit of a listed company requires more time to ensure the to ensure auditor has adhere to all applicable laws. Can you see my screen where I'm writing, everyone? Total time spent, can you all see that? Okay, that's great. So for anyone, if the video is paused, you need to reconnect, right? There might be an internet connection at your internet issue at your end. Okay, so the company requires more time to ensure auditor has adhered to applicable laws. So auditing a listed company is far more serious than auditing an owner managed company, right? So the total time spent on engagement, considering it's a listed company, is too less because an audit of a listed company requires more time to ensure auditor has adhered to the applicable laws. Thus, the overall quality of engagement performance, the overall quality of engagement performance uh, must had been compromised due to very less time given to river company. Full stop. See, this time I wrote much less. Did I found the issue? So too less. Too less was an issue, right? But did I commented on too less? Thus, the overall quality had been compromised due to very less time given to river company. Quality of what? Quality of what? Quality of the engagement performance. Is engagement performance an element of quality? Is engagement performance an element of quality? Had I wrote that? Look at my point. Bob spent 2 hours. Did I connected that with leadership responsibility? So am I using the specific jargons of ISA 220 when I'm connecting them with quality control? In the first, it was an ethical dilemma. So I use the word objective being an ethical dilemma. So when you are commenting on the quality, try to use the jargon of ISA 220 as if engagement performance quality is compromised, or as if the 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 leadership responsibility is compromised. So are you finding the way of writing the answer, issue, and the comment on the quality? So far, interestingly, all the three issues we found were quality control issues. Bob doing audit for last 8 years, Bob spent just 2 hours, and the total time spent. Was it all connecting with quality control, or did I forcefully connected them with quality? Or do you believe they were logically connected with quality? So not every issue can be connected with quality. You should only connect an issue with quality if it logically fall under the ISA 220. Then only you will connect it with quality. Is that clear to all of you? Right. So Dureshawar, we are an auditor, right? Why are we concerned with the quality of the client? We are concerned with the quality of the audit firm. We are concerned with the quality of the work we have performed. Dureshawar, why will you comment on the quality of the client? We are concerned with the quality of our firm. We are concerned with the quality of our work. I think this is something very straightforward. Seems like a very logical question, right? And not necessarily for every issue you write action, but if you want to write an action, you will say, Bob just spent 2 hours. Fine. If you want to write an action for that, what will you say? In future, or in the audits to come, in the future audits, The engagement partner should spend a careful time in the conduct of audit. Is that the right action? That in the future audit, the engagement partner, whoever that is, replacing Bob, should spend a careful time in the conduct of the audit, at least more than 2 hours, right? Is that a better action to write for 1 mark? And we already got 2 marks, one for issue, one for the comment on quality. Total time spent, 1 mark for the total time spent and 1 mark for the quality. And then you write an action, total time spent. The audit firm should carefully evaluate the time spent on river company for future, considering 173 hours. 173 hours was too less. Full stop. So you can write actions, right, if you want to write them. I hope these action makes sense, that in the future we need to increase the time spent on river company, or in the future when a new partner comes in, the partner should spend a more careful time in the conduct of the audit. Is that clear? So before I move to the last exercise, I just need some quick answers from all of you. Do you find uh, the connection in the last 30 minutes? First, I informed you about ISA 220. I informed you of the parameters of ISA 220, which are important and which, if absent from a case study, will compromise the quality, right? Then we started reading the case, and in the case, we found issues. The first issue we found was very similar, where Bob has worked for 8 years. Now, if Bob has worked for 8 years, that compromised the objectivity. And if objectivity is compromised, eventually the quality will compromise. So we connected that. Then in the second issue, the partner just spent 2 hours. Because the partner just spent 2 hours, the issue was that the 2 hours is too less time for a partner to spend on a listed company, full stop. But because he just spent 2 hours, it will also compromise the quality of the opinion he has given, because it seems he was in rush. And we found the comment on the quality. Then in the third issue, we found that the total time spent on the audit, considering it's a listed company, seems too less. That was a judgment, and we had a basis for judgment. So full stop. Then we converted that to a quality, that if we have spent too less time on the overall engagement, the quality of the overall engagement performance was compromised, full stop. So is that summary helpful? So you should know the parameters of quality control. And for every parameter of quality control, when you start to read the case study, you will find some examples of those parameters given by the examiner in the case study, where you will be thoughtful of connecting them with the elements the tutor has informed you, or the elements you must have covered from the book or from the examiner article. So is everyone finding the way of commenting on the quality, how you connect an issue with a element of a quality control in ISA 220, right? Tongai, there is no guidelines on an adequate time. Some things are subjective. When you read ISAs, a lot of time ISA says it's a judgment of an auditor. But you need to exercise a judgment as a manager. You need to tell me, Tongai, do you believe 173 hours is a very good time for a listed company? 173 hours just. You need to justify, Tongai. Do you agree with me? 173 hours is too less time. We cannot quote time. I think one of the student was asking, how much time? 250 hours? 300 hours? How can we quote it? Who is to decide how much time should we spend on the audit? The partner, not you. But do you believe in the context of the exam? Why is the examiner giving you 173 hours? Because he wants you to identify an issue. Why is the examiner giving you 173 hours? For you to find an issue in the 173 hours. For you to find an issue in 2 hours. So you need to be critical. You need to be critical in exercising your judgment. Is that clear? Let's do one last thing, right? Total time spent, the next paragraph. It is apparent from your review that almost all the detailed review of the working paper, all the detailed review of the working papers was completed by ANISA. Who completed the detailed review of the working paper? All the detailed review of the working paper? Anisa. Who is Anisa? She is an audit manager who has evidenced her review by stating final review on each page of the audit file. So while she was conducting the review of every working paper, she put in the bracket final review on each page of the audit file. So means no further review will be carried out after her review. Is that clear? So she put final review on each page of the audit file. That means no further review is required. She has recently been promoted to audit manager. Does she have the right competence to do the review of the working papers? Do you believe competence is a relevant factor under quality control, ISA 220? Do you believe review of the working paper is a quality control fundamental, which we just studied it after the break? So she was recently promoted and she has done a detailed review of the working papers, which includes the working papers of the risky areas and which includes the working papers of the non-risky areas. It also includes the working papers of going concern. Going concern is such a risky area. So how can she do the work? How can she do the review when she was recently promoted as an audit manager? Do you believe uh, instead of Anisa doing the review, it would have been better if Pat would have done the review? The senior manager Pat would have done the review would have been better. Do you understand this? So do you believe Anisa review is wrong? Will this compromise the quality of the review of the working papers? Was she the right person to do the review? Instead, Pat should have done the review, right? So let's write this as the last point for my session today. That is review by Anisa. The next point. See how you write it. Now, please be very careful. Look at the point development because that is what you need to understand, right? Yes, the final review is to be done by the manager, but the manager doing the final review is a wrong manager. I think instead of Anisa, Pat should have done it because she was recently promoted as a manager, so doesn't have the right rigor to do the review. And even after the review of the manager, there should be a review by the partner of only the risky areas, right? Okay, let's write Anisa review of working paper, review of working papers as a heading. See how I develop my point. This is the last time, so please be focused. Stop your questions. Anisa, review of working papers. See the focus. Now you start to develop the point. You first explain the issue and why it is an issue. So you first explain issue plus why. Then you connect it with quality control, it with quality control if it relates with it. If it relates with ISA 220, and then you tell an action. That's the three-step model, right? You have to follow when you're writing the answer. Issue and why is must, action is must, but the bullet number 3, connect it with QC if it relates with ISA 220 is not must. It's something of a judgment. You need to exercise an exam. If you believe the factor connects with ISA 220, then connect it and write it. See how am I writing the answer. First, issue and why. Enisa was recently promoted as an audit manager, so she didn't had the right exposure or experience to review the working papers, including the working papers, including the working papers of risky areas, working papers of risky areas like going concern, which is given in the exam paper. So at least the examiner wrote, examiner know I read the case. Anisa was recently promoted as an audit manager, so she didn't had the right exposure or experience to review the working papers, including the working papers of the risky areas like going concern. That is the issue and why she didn't had the right exposure. Thus, uh, the review carried out by her would lack would lack uh, the rigor, and she must had overlooked some of the critical issues in working paper. Full stop. That's the issue. Now, connect it with QC if it is possible and if it relates with ISA 220. Now you tell review of working papers. Review of working paper is an element. See, this is another way of writing the answer. Review of a working paper is an element of quality control, and it seems that the quality of working paper review was compromised was compromised for this engagement. So this is another way of writing it. See, every time I've shown you a different way of connecting with quality. First, tell examiner that review of the working paper is an element of quality control. That's another way, comma. And it seems that the quality of the working paper review was compromised for this engagement. Full stop. Then you write the action. Instead of Anissa, the senior manager, Pat, should had done this should have done the review. Care must be taken for the next audit. So when you come to the next audit, care must be taken that ensure the senior manager do the review rather than a newly appointed manager conducts the review. So I'll get 1 mark in context for action, and I'll get 1 mark for the issue and 1 mark for comment on the quality. I hope that makes sense to all of you now. Will you be able to continue this yourself? Because I need to show you the criticism of the examiner, which is very, very important for this paper. So when I was writing the issue, was I concerned with the classification of the issue, with the category of the issue, or was I just concerned with an issue and why? And if possible, I connected that with a quality control element, and then I wrote the action. So was I following a systematic way of writing my answer? Right? Let's make a summary and let's show you the criticism of the examiner. Now, when you look at the summary is very simple. I'll just reinforce, and you need to listen to me carefully. Number one, read the case, identify the issue, which we say annotate the issue. Once you identify the issue, explain why it is an issue. Is that something normal you need to do in the March 20 paper as well as in the September December 20 paper? Is that something logical for both the papers? Explain why it is an issue. Then in the fourth point, if it is a quality control element, if it is a quality control element, that means if it is an element given in the ISA 220, which you have identified, if it is a quality control element, then comment on the quality. Then comment on the quality. This is something extra. And write action to address the issue. Is that summary clear, understandable? Is that exactly what we did? You read, you identify, you explain, then you need to do something extra, which we did in the March 20 paper. And after the extra, you write an action. So only the fourth point is an extra thing, which was the difference between the March 20 paper and the December 20 paper. And for that extra thing, you need to be good on ISA 220. Is that clear? Is that summary helpful? Is that summary helpful between the March 20 paper and the December 20 paper, everyone? Is that helpful to all of you? Will this exercise give you a track of putting the rest of the question in front of you and do it, and then open another question on quality control and do it? So read, identify, explain. If it is a question on quality control, then do an extra step 4 and then write an action. If it is not a question on quality control, then the step number 4 will omit. Is that clear? So is the difference clear between the March 20 paper and the December 20 paper? If I can just make it this way quickly, the difference between the two papers, insert table, two tables. Okay, one table for the March 20 and one table for December 2020. So in the first case, you read, you identify, you explain, and just 1 minute. Okay, you explain and you write an action. But in the case of the September-December 20 paper, you read, just 1 minute, sorry. You read, you identify, you explain, you connect, you connect with quality, you connect with quality, and then finally you write an action. So do you find a difference between the March 20, where you need to write the ethical and professional issues without commenting on the quality, and between the September-December 20 paper, everyone? So will you follow the steps? Will you follow the summaries? Is that helpful? Okay, now I just want to show you the criticism of the examiner. The question we were solving, where we had some issues relating to time and the role of the bob, let's find the criticism of the examiner. Can you see in front of your screen the examiner report from September-December 20? And can you see the question in front of you, the question for 15 marks, which we were solving, all of you? Okay, that's great. Okay. Candidates appear to be familiar with this type of requirement and were able to explain the issues arising from how this audit was performed, working through information in a linear way. That's good. Now, since yesterday, do I read the case with you in a linear way, that is from top down? An examiner is saying those students who read the case in a logical manner performed well. So do I read the case para by para? And in every para, we stop and investigate the problem. So you need to read in a linear way, enabled candidate to discuss issue in turn. So were we discussing issues in turn? We first found Bob working for 8 years. Then we found he issued an unmodified opinion. Then we found he just spent 2 hours on the audit. And then the total time spent on the audit was 173. Then Anisa came in. Anisa was a newly promoted manager. So did we went in order? The information was structured around the audit team and the fees. Only the two things, audit team and fees. And when you read later, after the session ends today, with some additional information about the undescribed special investigation. So there is a special investigation in the other paragraphs to come, which had been performed for the client, as well as some information about going concern. So the entire case was about four things: the audit team, the fees, the special investigation, and going concern, when you read the rest of the case at home. In journal, candidates were able to identify the familiarity risk arising from long association with the client, discuss the lack of time spent on the audit, which we also identified, particularly in relation to the senior members of the team, and the potential ethical and integrity threats arising from a special investigation, which you will be doing later at home. Those with practical understanding were able to recognize that while it is normal for audit assistants to have the larger amount of time on the audit than the partner, the overall length of time on the audit was very low for a listed company. The overall length of time on the audit was very low for a listed client in a high risk industry. So normally the partners spend less time versus the juniors, right? But in this case, even the overall time spent, which was 173 hours, was very less considering it was a listed company. The going concern audit issue were also identified by most candidates. So do you see how productive the examiner makes the examiner report? So if you write an answer and you do a self-appraisal with examiner report, will that help you? Are you finding examiner reports written so productively? Look at the next paragraph. The requirement to recommend action. This is very important. Listen to this very carefully. The requirement to recommend actions, sorry, the requirement to recommend actions is one of the more variable, is one that was more variable in relation to the answer produced. So examiner is not very happy with the recommend action requirement. Examiner thought the answer was very variable. The question did not ask for procedures on going concern. Was the question asking you to write procedures, or was the question asking you to write actions? And a significant portion of candidates confused actions with procedures. Actions in the question include things such as discussion of the threats with audit committee. So see, examiner is giving you examples of actions. Actions includes discussions with audit committee, comma. Action includes investigating what is a special investigation when you read that case out, or action includes putting into place more robust acceptance procedure for additional services, full stop. Even if a candidate decided that the going concern area was not sufficiently audited, an action would be to perform additional procedures rather than list procedure. So if you think the work on growing concern was not adequate, what action will you write in an exam? That the audit team should perform more procedure, full stop. Rather than you start telling, review the forecasted financial statement, review the budgets, review the contracts with the customer. Will you start writing procedures on going concern? Are you writing an action or a procedure? So the action would be perform additional procedure rather than starting to write a list of procedure. So is the examiner very uh, angry with all of you that the distinction between actions and procedure is one that candidates should ensure they understand. It is very common for candidates to list procedure when the question is asking for actions. Please understand there's a big difference when the examiner asks you to write an action versus a procedure. Action versus procedures. The actions are taken to resolve a problem, whereas a procedure is performed to gather sufficient, appropriate audit evidence. So is the examiner asking you to write procedures? Procedure comes as a separate requirement right in the question number 1 of the paper. But actions is a very common terminology used in the AAA paper. It's a very common term, and you should know what actions means. Action means to resolve the problem. Procedure means to gather evidence. Now, even though if you attempt the going concern issue at home, if you think the work on going concern was inadequate in the case study when you read it, if the work was inadequate, which is the case examiner is telling us, if the work is inadequate on going concern, that's an issue, right? Now, when you start to write an action on this, your action would be the audit team should perform more procedures in the next year audit on going concern because the audit report has been signed. Next year audit on going concern. Will that address the issue that next year audit when we come will perform better procedures on going concern? This is the action. Rather than you start telling examiner action and the student says number 1, review the board minutes, or number 2, review the budgets, or number 3, you say review the cash flow forecast, review the cash flow forecast. So is the examiner happy with you writing procedures when he's asking you actions? Are you getting the track, everyone? Right? So should you know the difference between writing a procedure and an action? Is the examiner happy? No, he's not happy. He's saying the student messed up writing procedures when actions were asked for. Is that clear? So was the examiner report productive? So when I say self-appraisal yesterday and today, and I told you that you should reconcile your answer with the marking scheme and you should reconcile your answer with examiner report. Are you getting the way track? Are you getting the importance of how important examiner reports are, how deep they go in? Right? So when you write the full answer, Compare your full answer with examiner marking scheme and then compare your full answer with the criticism. And if you wrote a procedure, then you should know that you should not write it. Will you get the learnings from the examiner report if you do a mistake? Mistakes are not bad if you do them before the exam hall. Mistakes are bad. Mistakes are bad if you do them in exam hall. So if you do a self appraisal, will that help you to avoid mistakes? Will that help you to take a better action before the day of exam? And is action worthy? Yes, audit procedures also have audit procedures and actions have a different objective, right? The objective of an action is to resolve a problem, Dibya, is to resolve a problem, right? Resolve. And the objective of a procedure is to gather sufficient evidence. But when you write an action, the action is written with a verb like discuss with management. And when you write a procedure, the procedure is also written with a verb review something, discuss something, recalculate something. Action and procedure means auditor is doing something, right? So action and a procedure technically starts with a verb because the auditor is doing something, right? So one thing which is common in an action and a procedure means auditor is doing something. Action and a procedure means auditor is doing something. Action. So should it start with a verb? But most of the time when we are writing actions, we say discuss with management because we want to resolve a problem. But when we are writing procedures, there are uh, recalculation, there is review, there is discussions. There are so many. There is a procedure known as observation, reperformance. So action and procedures has one thing in common, Dibya. I hope you've understood that. That is a verb, how you start. But the purpose is different. The purpose is different, right? And Amir Naqvi, this is not a class on evidence and procedure, so you need to watch my previous webinars for that. We just came across actions and procedures because that was a comment given by the examiner, right? So I hope you found the examiner report productive, and this ends the examiner report for the question we did. So in the session today, we not just discussed the two questions, March 20 and September December 20. We also discussed the marking schemes, number 2. We also discussed the examiner report, number 3. We also discussed the way of writing the answer, number 4. We also discussed how you formulate a paragraph for 1 mark, number 5. I hope from the start of the session to the end of the session, you must have gained something. You must have got some benefit out of the session, and you have not incurred any cost for the session. Remember that. So you are taking it as a free of cost resource, and still you have been benefited. So try to understand the benefits you got today. Look at the opportunities you got today. Look at what you got today. Because a lot of students, even after taking a free webinar, try to think what we didn't got. They look at the pessimistic sides. You need to look at the optimistic sides when you're looking at something for free. So I hope over the 3 hours you spend in the live webinar, you got something. So I'll be looking forward to your feedbacks in the next 2 minutes before I wind up my webinar today and I give you a summary. Both the questions I did today, complete them. Complete the March 20 question, complete the December 20 question, and follow the self-appraisal mechanism which I have guided you. So I hope the day 2 today would have been beneficial to all of you if I just give you a summary of the day 2 before I wrap up things. And in between, I'm just uh, looking at the feedbacks you are sharing with, and thank you for that as well. So the day 2 summary. The summary of day 2, number 1, I hope you got the way to prepare this topic. We started that way to prepare for this topic. I given you that in the beginning. Then I reinforce the importance of articles. I reinforce the importance of examiner report even today. Then we also understand the different requirements which comes on this question, understand the different requirements, March 20 and December 20. I also explained to you the marking schemes, how to develop a point, how to develop a point. We looked at the examiner criticism. We looked at the examiner criticism, and we also looked at how to comment on quality. Just before how to comment on quality, we also saw the ISA 220 and just a quick summary of the ISA 220, and then how to comment on the quality. So I hope these are 8 good things we learned today in the end of the day 2 summary. And I hope that's productive to all of you, right? So we have a very important session tomorrow, day 3. Day 3 is all about audit report, and a very important topic because in every paper you get audit report as a must question. You cannot expect a 100 marks paper of AAA without a question on audit report. So audit report is an integral topic just like risk. So we'll explore uh, audit report tomorrow and in a very different manner. And I'll give you the marking schemes of an audit report question, and I'll give you the way to excel in an audit report question. So that is the agenda for the day 3 tomorrow. The day 2 today was more focused on the ethical, professional, and quality control issue, which we have just wrapped up. So I'll see you back with the agenda for day 3 tomorrow. I hope you come prepared with audit report as a topic. Today agenda was ethical, professional, and quality control issue. And tomorrow when I resume my webinar, which is the day 3, the agenda for day 3 is to look at the audit report. The recordings of the session will be shared on the ACCA channel. I'll be putting them on the WhatsApp group over the next few hours when they are ready and available. The resources and any material will all be put on the WhatsApp group, which you must have joined in. So I hope you had a productive time. Thank you so much for joining the live webinar. I'll see you all live tomorrow for day 3. Till then, take good care of yourself and study effectively for excelling in the March 2021 exams. Thank you very much. Uh, and thank you very much for the feedback as well. Take care, be safe, and prepare yourself excellently for upcoming exams. I'm Kashif Kamran signing off from the day 2 of this Practice to Pass webinar for March 2021 exams. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz.